Tonight, I'm barely there. The Bears roster's been revamped, but we're over the cap with their draft picks. Who stays? Who goes? Should the Bears sign Nick Chubb? I think we're going to break that down for you, and we're going to get into some really early fantasy talk to win your league right after. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Barely There podcast. We are 4-Star Chicago Sports, and as always, I got my boys Kyle and Jason in the house. How are we doing on this fine Wednesday now that the draft is kind of simmered down a little bit?
I feel like there's less work to do now that the draft is over. It's almost like a break, like a mini vacation, but the session never stops, right? There's always a sports event on, a game on, and there's always news. There's always breaking news. What about you, Kyle?
Doing good, man. Feeling good. Ready for the show. Let's go, Sean.
Well, we got a lot to cover. We're going to talk about the state of this Bears offense, or state of the Bears roster, I should say, not the offense, the state of the overall offense and defense and roster as a whole. I keep dropping the ball on that, but that's what we're going to do. Then we got some fantasy stuff for you. We're going to talk about Nick Chubb, and I really want to get into, and maybe we could just start off with this because I'm today on X. I went in and I'm just going through Bears news like I always do. And I start seeing a couple of fans posted a couple of rare things that Cole Kmet does. Dropping a pass. There's a viral picture of him dropping a pass against the Packers in Green Bay. And it's like, Jesus Christ, guys. This guy is one of the most efficient tight ends in the entire freaking league. It's not even a question. His numbers back it up. And I don't really think Cole Kmet is going anywhere. And I think Cole Kmet is headed for his best year as a Chicago Bear. The numbers speak for itself, guys. He had one drop in 24, 4 drops on 214 targets since 2022, one of the lowest among wide receivers and tight ends. He led the NFL wide receivers and tight ends with an 85.5% catch rate per Next Gen Stats in 2024 after being second in 2023. No NFL receiver has been more clutch than Kmet across the last 2 seasons. He has the highest EPA target among Bears receivers, period, at 6.46 in 2024, 0.46, in 2024, nearly 3 times higher than the next closest, which was Roma Dunze at 0.17. And shall we remind you all, our new head coach is an EPA nut. So I also put this graph together here to show the differences about what Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet bring to the table. And if you take a second here and you just jot your eyes down this thing, you see they are completely different players. They're going to work in 12 personnel together. Cole Kmet is a stud tight end in the NFL. I don't see him going anywhere. I see him being utilized, as I said, especially inside the 20. This guy doesn't drop balls. He should have been the main target last year in the red zone for the Chicago Bears because it's a sure-handed target. But I want to get your guys' opinion because there are a lot of people, and there was also a rumor. I'll put this graph back up. There was also a rumor out there saying that the Bears could possibly be in talks with the New York Jets to send Cole Kmet to New York with a package in return for Breece Hall. So, and I don't know if there's any true. It's NFL rumors. I would love Breece Hall. I don't want to get rid of Cole Kmet, but I'm a big Breece Hall fan. Kyle knows that. I love the guy. I think he's a dynamic running back. He brings lots to the table. Receiver, running back. He could do it all out of the backfield. He's a super quick dude, even after his knee surgery. What do you guys think about this whole Cole Kmet leaving Chicago, staying in Chicago, working in 12 personnel with Colston Loveland? Guys, talk to me. Who wants to lead it off?
I'll start. First of all, they put Kmet into a second contract, so that means that they love this guy because they really didn't keep a whole lot of the prior regime staff. The other thing is, listen, this is exactly what he wants. Ben Johnson wants both an X and a Y tight end, so you can run that 12 personnel, which I believe Detroit was what, second or third most with like 34% of the time or something like that. But they run it a lot, and you need 2 tight ends, especially when, again, we preach this all the time on 4-Star Chicago Sports. Make the same thing look different and the different thing look the same, right? Because that's what Ben Johnson said. That's what Dennis Allen has said. That's what literally their mantra is. That means you need 2 guys with different skill sets but can do the same thing. We were talking about it before the show started. He's 100%, Komet is 100% a red zone guy. Everywhere else in between, basically between the 20s, is going to be Colston Loveland. But don't be surprised to see them both mixed in. It's I love it. I mean, if you're a quarterback, you got to really love it. But if you're an offensive coordinator, you really have to love it because you have 2 extra blockers. If you want to run a run off of it, you've got 2 guys that can catch the ball. I mean, both of them have the ability to be wide receivers if they were smaller. They just happen to be 6'6" and like 250. They're monsters. Kyle, well, what about you?
I mean, in terms of the rumor, I don't know if it's going to be Cole Kmet, but I mean, at some point, the Bears are probably looking to trade some veteran contract off this team for a rookie contract. I mean, like you said, Sean, right now they would probably be projected to be $3 million over the salary cap. There's definitely going to be some cuts. Obviously, those players who are fringe roster players are going to clear up some money there, but it's not going to be a ton. I mean, at some point, the Bears are going to either have to trade a veteran contract off of this team, or they're going to have to reconstruct a contract on this team. I expect Cole Kmet to be here in 2025. I think this is probably going to be one of the most dangerous tight end duos in the NFL. You guys just talked about it. Ben Johnson loves his 12-13 personnel. You're going to see multiple tight ends on the field at the same time a lot. It's going to happen early, especially early and often in this offense, because I think they're going to try to start Caleb Williams in this offense by throwing, slants, screens, shorts, just giving him layups to kind of build his confidence up a little bit while they start to expand the playbook. And tight ends and running backs are perfect for that. And right now, if I'm the Bears, I do everything I can to keep Cole Kmet here and try to utilize those 2 tight end sets. How many teams do you guys know of in the NFL right now that have 2 tight ends that are this capable of pass catchers? I mean, it just doesn't exist. It's not like Broski Bear says, that it's very rare to pay 2 tight ends. So you basically have to have one of them on a rookie contract. The last time I can remember 2 tight ends of this caliber on the same team would be Rob Gronkowski and Hernandez. And I'm certainly not comparing these 2 to those 2. I'm just saying both of these guys are capable of catching 700-800 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns. Right now, if you look at the Bears on paper, they're one of the toughest teams to defend in the NFL. I'd like the Bears to stay that way for as long as they possibly can.
Yeah, and when it comes to, I just want to touch on this Broski Bear. He said that Cole Kmet becomes the Brock Wright of this offense. You can find a cheaper tight end. I think the Brock Wright of this offense is going to be Durham Smythe. I think you're going to see Cole Kmet on this field a lot more than Brock Wright was on the field for the Detroit Lions. I think Cole Kmet's going to have a really, really good year. I said it a few minutes ago. I think Cole Kmet's going to shine in this offense. I think he's going to do the little things that he didn't do under the last regime. He's going to be coached up correctly, be a better blocker than he was last year. He missed a lot of assignments blocking, which is really, really bad for him because he's known as a really good blocker. I just think last year it was such a gosh darn mess with that coaching staff. I think he's going to get it right this year, and I think he's going to have one hell of a season for the Chicago Bears. And you got to remember, Colston Loveland, I mean, he's going to have to acclimate his game to the NFL. He's not just going to walk in here and be a 1,000-yard receiver. It's going to take time. Kyle and I talked about this yesterday, I believe. When you start looking at, if you take the unicorn out, Brian Thomas Jr., you start looking at the receivers from last season. They didn't pick up from week 1. They started picking up their game week 6, week 7, week 8, week 9. It's going to take time. So I think that especially at the beginning of the year and especially in the red zone, Cole Kmet is going to be a really big part of this offense for the Chicago Bears. And maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't see a situation like last year where we're coming in the training camp thinking Cole Kmet's our number 1 and Gerald Everett starts for the Chicago Bears. I think all that crap is gone. Would you guys disagree on that one?
No, because last year what you had because they still had not Martellus Bennett, what's his nuts, the veteran tight end. So that he was their blocker. He was basically their extra lineman to help out for both Braxton Jones. Then you had Cole Kmet, who they misused, and then you sign another tight end that's supposed to be the wide tight end that catches like 4 balls all years long. It was a mess. It was so ugly. It clearly they said they had a design and a plan, but they did not have a plan in place to really run that offense. They just didn't.
No.
They succeeded in areas, but it was sloppy everywhere. I don't know what you think, Kyle, but I think it was sloppy.
I mean, I've said this numerous times on this podcast, guys. These Bears players, and obviously I'm excluding Colston Loveland because he's a rookie under Ben Johnson, but most of these players, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, have never played for an actual offensive coordinator, a guy who the NFL widely considers to be a good play caller. The Bears have not had that here in the last 5-6 years. I expect this offense to be a lot better than it's been in years past, even with implementing a new scheme. Now, listen, the Broski Bear says Loveland starting. They didn't draft him 10 overall not to start. I mean, define starting. I mean, Roma Dunze was on the field for the first play of most games last year, but he only had 700 yards. He only played 50% of the offensive snaps. Listen, I'm not saying he's not going to start. They're going to get him involved in those offense as early as they possibly can, but there's going to be some growing pains for sure. I wish every rookie came to the NFL and was a 1,500-yard catch at 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. That'd be nice, but that's just not how it works. It's a much, much different game in the NFL. There's a lot more plays to learn. The playbook is double the size of a college playbook. You have to learn. You have to know a lot more in the NFL. You have to know more than just your assignment. You have to know basically everybody's assignment on the field with you. It is 100% a totally different game, but I expect Colston Loveland to come along pretty quickly. I'd say by week 6-7, I'd expect him to be the Bears' number 1 tight end.
Welcome to the show, TB17. I haven't seen you here before. I believe you're a new watcher, viewer. Please hit that like and subscribe and give me a shout out, everybody. And I highly doubt Tyson Bagent without an injury will see this field because I believe.
I don't know if Tyson Bagent's going to make the team, Sean.
No, I think Case Keenum, no matter if he does or not, will be the direct backup to.
He's the most veteran guy. He's got starting experience. He's not great. You don't want him starting, but if he's got to come in for a week or two, you're probably going to be okay. But
nonetheless, before we move on, I just wanted to get out there again because I'm rolling through Twitter and I'm just like, guys, Cole Kmet isn't going anywhere. He's going to be fine. Like, give it a rest. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. But the Chicago Bears do have some questions because they're just I saw on Cap on Sports Track today that it was $11 million they had left, and I think they need about 13. But I also saw on a different site they had 10. So they're in between 10 and 11, regardless.
Over the cap says 10. Yeah.
They're $3 million short.
Right.
So, and I forgot to bring up the list here. So I'm just going to run it. Offensive side of the ball cut candidates. Ryan Bates, you cut him. It's a $3.5 million savings, $500K in dead cap. Stephen Carlson, I think, is a very good cut candidate at tight end, especially with the room that they have. He's $1 million, 8.3 in dead cap. Jordan McFadden is $1 million, 0 in dead cap. Joshua Miles is at 1.1 million, 0 in dead cap. This one's going to sound a little weird because he was just re-signed and brought back by the Chicago Bears. But then you look at it and say they did draft Shamar Turner. Chris Williams has 0 in dead cap and would save the Bears $3.26 million. Zach Pickens seems to be a failed draft pick, $976K, $595K in dead cap. Nick McLeod, $1.13 million, $50K in dead cap.
They just picked him up though, didn't they?
They did.
Yep.
But another, they also drafted somebody in his position in Zay Frazier. So Don Robinson, another failed draft pick for the Bears. He's 1.1 million, 68,000 in dead cap. And the crazy one to me, and I don't see this happening, but before I say him, Jonathan Owens could be on the list. I doubt it because the safety position's kind of thin, but he would be 1.8 million and a 375K in dead cap. And then the big one, which we know that we've heard in the past, is Kevin Byard. He would be a $7 million savings, but also cover a $5 million dead cap space. So I don't see Byard. I think Byard and Owens will definitely be on this team. Of those guys, and I know Tyson Bagent was on a thumbnail. I didn't leave Tyson Bagent. I did not put him on my list. because I do think Tyson Bagent is going to make this team. I do. Whether it's practice.
Well, yeah, but he would be
It's Austin
slotted.
Reed that probably won't.
Yeah, but he would be
Correct.
slotted in as the emergency quarterback.
Correct.
He wouldn't
Correct.
technically
Yes.
be on the roster.
Correct.
We can't forget about Roshan Johnson. We got to see how this Kyle Manung guy does. They just signed Travis Homer. I guess they could get rid of him again if they wanted to, but they might not like Roshan's style. I don't think he's aggressive enough. Tyler Scott is another candidate that could be gone. I mean, they just drafted Tyler Luther Burden III, who's I forgot about Tyler Scott as soon as they drafted him. So I did have Zach Pickens on there and Dominique Robinson. I think the team could easily save $6 million. I don't think it's that difficult to do. There's a bunch of guys that are getting paid, $1 million this year. It's not that all that common in the NFL anyway. So it all depends on depth. And some of these guys might be making $1 million and are on special teams, but we can't suck on special teams either. We kind of need some of those guys. And depth is always a big thing. In the secondary, I think, Byard, his experience and his knowledge, and if Dennis Allen likes him especially, he's not going anywhere. He's just not. And Jonathan Owens, he's not, for 1.5 or whatever, he's not that expensive, and he's a good depth guy. He made some plays last year. He had a fumble recovery. He was in the right place at the right time. So, I'd hate to see him go if he does. That's not going to kill me, but I think there's more dead weight in other spots. I don't see a lot of bad contracts, but there's dead weight that we could easily save $6 million, $7 million. No problem. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, somebody's getting cut, guys. Somebody's getting cut.
Well, yeah.
I have a feeling there's going to be more than a few defensive linemen cut for this team. I don't think Chris Williams is ultimately going to make the roster. I don't think Dominic Robinson is going to make the roster. I don't think Zach Pickens should make the roster now, unless Ryan Poles wants to hold on to the hope that he didn't screw up another third-round pick. But I don't see it. Zach Pickens, by all accounts, you listen to the experts, they say the same thing. This guy he was scouted in college from high school as a guy who basically was scouted purely off of his physical traits. He was disappointing. Then the Bears drafted him purely off of his physical traits. He was disappointing. I mean, this guy just seems to me like he cannot figure it out. He should definitely be cut. There's going to be a few names that probably surprise you a little bit, but most of it's going to be the guys who are making up the 90-man roster when they have to cut down to 53. And that's who you expect to see on that 53-man roster are going to be here at the end of the day. There's no point to cutting Kevin Byard. That doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form.
I agree.
You're cutting a guy who's made Pro Bowls to eat dead $5 million in dead cap, so you could save $2 million, less than $2 million. That's
in a really important position too. I mean, he's a smart player.
We've talked about this 100 times, guys. We expected the Bears to draft a safety because they don't have that much depth at the safety position. So cutting your best safety, or at least your most reliable safety, probably wouldn't be the best case scenario for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Now, as we cut some of these guys and we're looking for what we call sacks for hire, do any of these guys, first off, do you guys feel like we should bring in a vet edge rusher, that would complement this defense? A couple of guys I had on my list were Zadarius Smith. He had 9 sacks for 2 teams last year. He had 4 sacks, 15 pressures in 8 games with the Detroit Lions. Matthew Judon, but for all intents and purposes, I went and looked at his PFF. Last year was his career low. Can he rebound from that? But Poles did try and acquire him last year. A couple other guys, Zadarius Smith is out there, Zadarius Smith, I just mentioned him. Von Miller, Preston Smith, DeMarcus Walker, former Chicago Bear, Carl Lawson, and Ngakwe, who was here for Yannick, was here for a cup of coffee as well. Do any of these guys strike you as somebody, hey, we bring them in, veteran presence, get a little bit more pressure, seeing that we do have, some young guys on the edge right now for the Bears?
Well, the problem is the cap space, right? I mean, the thing we just literally went over, that's really going to dictate who we
cutting
can
some
bring in.
people and freeing up some room, though.
Right.
That's
assuming we've got some more room. I'm not opposed to it, but I think Poles is the type of GM that likes to leave a little bit of room in there, even if it's $2 or $3 million for a late signing in the middle of the year because of injury or a trade or something that he decides to make. I'm not opposed to bringing in a veteran. I think you're probably going to bring in a veteran if anywhere on the defensive side, maybe like, at linebacker or again at DB or, an edge guy. I don't want to pay too much for him though. That's the problem. Von Miller is a decent little ad, but I don't know what he's worth or what you're going to get out of him anyway. So that, there's a problem there. Other than that, I'm thinking, we got to save money at running back, but if we feel like running back is good, that's fine. I just think our depth issues right now are probably worst at offensive line and everywhere else on the defense.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see them bring in a veteran defensive end, at least not at this point. I mean, if anything, the Bears would wait until all these teams make their cuts down to the 53-man roster. You always see a couple guys on that list who kind of surprise you. You're like, oh, I know that guy's still got some gas left in the tank. It's kind of surprising that he got cut, probably solely, usually because of their salary. The Bears would probably wait till after those cuts are made to see if there's somebody out there that interests them. To be honest with you guys, I've been saying this for the last 6 months. I honestly believe that the Bears and Ryan Poles are thinking the same way as I have. I think right now they're just kind of worried about the offense. I don't think the Bears defense is as bad as people made it out to be last year. I think they had a couple massive injuries, a guy like Jaquan Brisker, a guy like Billings, but besides Brisker, they've addressed that defensive line, guys. They signed Grady Jarrett, they signed Deo, they drafted Turner. I think they feel like their defensive line is pretty much set in stone now. Could you use another defensive end? Well, I hope not. I hope you didn't trade back in the 5th round to draft Austin Booker to be like, well, this guy stinks. Let's go sign a backup. I think Austin Booker should get a lot more playing time this season. You should see what you got there. And I expect him to be a difference maker for this team. I expect him to at least
have
6, 7, 8 sacks. Yeah, but yeah, and it's all in due time, right? You got to get in the NFL and get in the NFL weight rooms and start to meet with their dietitians and their physical therapists and their personal trainers and see what you need to do to perfect your physical specimen. But at the end of the day, I think the Chicago Bears defense is pretty much set in stone. I think right now the Chicago Bears are worried about the development of Caleb Williams. I don't think they believe personally. Now listen, guys, they're never going to come out and say, you guys, we're not going to win a Super Bowl this year, so we're just trying to kind of tweak some things here and there. But at the end of the day, they probably do not believe they're going to win a Super Bowl in 2025. I just don't think they have the depth to do so. So right now, if I'm the Chicago Bears, I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that Caleb Williams is coming along at the right speeds, learning this system, learning how to play under center, developing the way that Ben Johnson wants to develop, create that marriage between the head coach and the quarterback, and make sure you got that franchise quarterback before you start worrying about the defense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're doing this right. It's a slow development. I was just more or less thinking you get that veteran presence in here. And again, I saw they were talking about this someplace else today, and I was like, I wanted to see what you guys thought about maybe bringing in a veteran presence, on that off the edge. Someone like a Zadarius Smith or a Preston Smith, guys who are familiar with the NFC North, maybe won't cost you a big dollar, but
find our new Akeem Hicks.
Yeah. I'm really okay with just hopefully the development of Austin Booker is going to be there, and he's not another Dominic Robinson who is just taking up a roster spot and never develops in the squad.
Or Travis Gibson, or a list of another 10 more players we can name. But you know what? I really did
help Javon Dexter too. Help develop him into something better.
Yeah, and obviously I dove deep into pretty much every single one of those guys we just talked about. And I think Austin Booker does have the most promise. I remember thinking I thought more highly of Austin Booker than I did Dominic Robinson when the Bears drafted him. I think at the end of the day, Austin Booker is going to be at least an impact maker on this team. I'm not saying he's going to be the next
All-Pro
Trey Hendrickson or have 17 and a half sack season, but I think he has the traits, the tools, and the coaching to get him to a point where he can make an immediate impact and he can get you 7, 8, 9 sacks. You guys, this team is going to be sacked by committee. They don't have Myles Garrett.
That's the way you want your defense to be, though. You don't want to double team one guy all the time. You want everybody getting in there and getting pressure.
Well, yeah, and Jason, you've talked about it a couple of times, even as recent as last week. The more pressure you can create up the middle, which I think they've done a good job of addressing that pressure. When you come to talk about guys like Grady Jarrett, you talk about maybe moving Deo inside, you talk about it's drafting Turner. The more pressure you get up the middle, it makes it a lot easier for guys like Sweat and say Austin Booker or Deo is on the outside to get home. I expect their sack total to go up for the Chicago Bears. I think they finished around 40 last year. I expect it to be somewhere closer to 50, 55.
Yeah, I'm with you. 50, 60, I hope. Would be my guess.
Big improvement. That's what you want.
Yeah, Deo's best year was 8. So if he gets 8 and you can get 8 to 10, out of Sweat, maybe another, out of your rotation in that center, another 10 to 15 out of the middle, at least create pressure, flush the quarterback out. Creating pressure to me is just as much as important as the sack. You don't always have to get the sack to get the turnover. Flush the quarterback out, make him uncomfortable, make him throw a bad ball. Our secondary is full of ball hawks.
You got 7 other playmakers behind you, right?
And
So
Kyler, if you can flush him out of the pocket, guys like Kyler Gordon are probably going to be expected to get those sacks as well. And listen, we've talked about this a million times, guys. Rome wasn't built in a day. You cannot fix an entire franchise or roster in one offseason.
Yeah.
The Bears, all you can do is ask that after each individual offseason that you were better than you were a year ago. I believe that the Bears have done that. I think they're a better football team than they were last year. And I believe that the Bears probably had a better roster than it looked last year. And they brought the coaches here to show people that some of these players were not developed correctly, or were being played out of scheme, or were not being put in good positions. We've talked about how Ben Johnson consistently says, I am going to build this team and this scheme around my players and their strengths. That's what these coaching staff should have been doing for the last 5 years. Unfortunately, the Bears just made bad hires.
Yeah, and Kyle, and this is the one thing, because I've been the harshest critic of Ryan Poles at times, and I think that sometimes it's forgotten that he inherited the 29th ranked roster, a detriment of no draft capital, 45% of dead cap. He hasn't been perfect. He's been far from it, but no GM is, by the way. If you want to look at one of the bigger mistakes ever made, how about John Lynch, who everyone praises? He traded 3 first-rounders for Trey Lance. How did that work out?
Traded him 2 seasons later.
And traded him
for a bag of balls.
But again, for me, with the noted roster and coaching misses, draft misses, I still, as I went through his drafts, now we talked about this too. He's had 33 draft picks, and I'm not including this year's class. So prior to this year, he had 33 draft picks. He's turned 0. There's been 0 Pro Bowlers to come out of it. Now, what does that mean? Is he not drafting well? Whatever. I still think there's some potential on this roster, especially his first 2 picks of his tenure, which were Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon being his first pick ever as GM of the Chicago Bears. I do think that if Brisker can stay on the field, he could reach that status. I have 0.00 doubt in my brain that Kyler Gordon can reach that status.
I think he already has.
I think he has too.
Sean, at the end of the day, for me personally, and this is going to be a little of a tangent here, guys, so bear with me. But to me, last year specifically, when they decided to put Drake May on the Pro Bowl roster, there's just no. It doesn't mean anything.
Caleb should have been in it before Drake May.
Well, not only that, but and obviously that's a different conference, but. It's not even about that. It's about the fact that this has basically become a popularity contest, right, Sean? When Jalen Johnson was the number 2 corner in the NFC 2 years ago, they didn't even talk about him possibly being a Pro Bowler, and he didn't even make the top 100 list on NFL Network. It's basically a popularity contest at this point. This is a joke. Guys who play really, really well on poor teams get way less recognition than guys who play average on good teams. We've seen this 1,000 times over. I think Darnell Wright is capable of making a Pro Bowl. I think Caleb Williams is going to make Pro Bowls. I think Roma Dunze is going to make Pro Bowls. I think Kyler Gordon's going to make Pro Bowls. I think Jaquan Brisker is going to make Pro Bowls. Yeah. I think there's, it's so funny too, because the same fans that will tear Ryan Poles apart and say, and I'm not talking about you, Sean, but these guys you hear on Instagram or Facebook who will tear Ryan Poles apart and say there's just nobody on this roster that seems to be all that talented, are the same people who look you in the eyes and be like, is this the best Bears offense we've ever seen on paper? Like, all right, well, which one is it? What is it? Is it that he's drafted Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, signed Cole Kmet, got DJ Moore here in one of the best trades in NFL history, drafted Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, and got rebuilt the interior of this offensive line through very witty trades that nobody even saw coming. Nobody knew Joe Tooney was available except for Ryan Poles. He called and asked. Or is it this guy sucks and everybody in the Bears sucks and they don't make Pro Bowls and the Bears are going to be in sports purgatory for the rest of our lives? You got to pick one or the other. I mean, for me personally, guys, and maybe I'm just living in the moment and I'm probably a biased Bears fan, but I can't remember an offense on paper as dangerous as this one. I will say that Burnham Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, and Matt Forte, that offense was good, but
that was a really good
I think
offense.
this one has
really
more pieces. I think this one has more pieces. After you lost that top tier talent, if any of those guys got hurt, which we know Alshon Jeffrey dealt with injuries his whole career, and Burnham Marshall obviously dealt with his mental issues, you pretty much were back to square one with all these average players. This offense is deep when it comes to playmakers. It's deep.
We were just talking about the tight ends earlier. Running back is our biggest problem, but I think DeAndre Swift might have a
and you
slight
guys,
bump up in performance.
And
I
he's
think
considered a top 12 running back in the league. I mean, he was one of the most sought after free agents in free agency. It was him, Saquon Barkley, and Brandon Jacobs. I mean, it's not like people look at DeAndre Swift and go, well, that guy's a scrub. The Bears running room sucks. I mean, he got paid 3 years, $24 million. It certainly wasn't because he sucks. I can tell you that.
Go watch Kyle Monangai block and watch him run. He's actually way better than you think he is. His numbers
great draft,
pretty consistent.
Great draft pick.
This is probably the best wide receiver room I have seen on the Bears in 48 years, my entire life. I think we've got the best quarterback we've ever had. And I'm just being honest with you. And statistically, Jay Cutler is our best quarterback, so it's not saying much. But I think 10 years from now, we're not going to be really talking about Jay Cutler as much. We're going to be talking about Caleb Williams. And then look at the defense. We have the best secondary we've probably ever had at least in the last 25 years. This century for sure.
And who built that? Who built all this stuff?
He built the whole thing.
Built this. He built this. This is his team.
Yes.
And, to Scottish Bear, I want to say, Poles' tenure has had some classic hallmarks of a GM growing into his job.
Yes.
He had some early missteps, of course.
He was 35 years old when he was hired to be a general manager in the NFL. But you guys these people didn't expect a couple bumps in the road. This guy was a first-time GM at 35 years old. I mean, there's still people that would consider him a young man. And this guy's a GM of a National Football League.
Yeah, I don't think he's 40 yet.
No, and that's kind of what I'm saying. He got his highly coveted head coach, that everybody wanted. It speaks volumes.
That too. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's also that.
Yeah, Poles showed the ability, which has never happened in Chicago before. He invested heavily in this offense. He fixed the offensive line. He found some good values in some trades. It shows his vision, adaptability. The criticisms of him are fair and expected, and I was one of them.
Well, I want to hear
this negativity.
I want to hear from every single one of these fans in the chat here and everybody else on Twitter and Facebook if this team is competing for a Super Bowl in 2026 or 2027. I want to hear from these people because what?
That's kind of where I was going with it.
Everybody who's doubting Caleb Williams, be very, very careful, guys. Try to think with your brain, not your heart. I like Don Burr. I know you're a huge Lions fan. Obviously, you're never going to come on here and say the Bears are great. Everything's great about the Bears. But, I mean, Caleb Williams is, by all accounts, if you ask any expert in the world, this isn't Bears fans. This is people who study football for a living. They believe he's going to be the best quarterback in the NFC. Now, is there a chance that doesn't happen? Sure, of course. But right now, he certainly hasn't shown anything otherwise. He played on one of the worst with the worst offensive line in the NFL last year, and he had 20 touchdowns and 6 picks. I mean, what more can you ask for him?
Well, and again, I wanted to say, the criticism of the GM is fair and it should be expected,
Of course.
Just the relentless negativity from some corners, not all, some corners of the fan base that ignore the content and the progress that has been made. And I am one that will sit here and say Poles is not perfect, but the Bears are in a dramatically better spot than they were in 2022 when he inherited the 29th overall offense in the NFL. This has been a stark rebuild. I lost faith and didn't see the vision there for a little bit myself, and that's why I am coming back to it and saying when I start going through his drafts and start pinpointing some of the things, some of his players that he's drafted are hugely responsible for the turnaround of this franchise. So all I'm saying is, Bears fans, if this guy does happen to hoist that Lombardi trophy, just remember the negativity from these corners just continue.
You got to eat that. If you're a Bears fan and you've been saying that, you got to eat that. And here, let me run something by you guys real quick, and you tell me if you agree with this. Now, listen, has Poles made mistakes? Chase Claypool, PJ Walker, yeah, absolutely. Nate Davis, of course. Every GM, like we just talked about, John Lynch makes mistakes. He's one of the best GMs in football. Now, listen, guys, is there an argument to be made that in some way, shape, or form, not entirely, but Ryan Poles has been a victim of circumstance. Now, listen, so he got here with one of the worst rosters. It was the second-ranked roster in the NFL, and we're in salary cap hell. So basically, those first 2 years are a wash, right? Because you got to get rid of all this dead cap, and you got to try to save as much money as you possibly can to reload the bank, reload the salary cap, and so you can start acquiring good players, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then year 3 comes. He's on the fence about Justin Fields. He says, I don't like this quarterback draft. I'm going to wait till next year to get one of these guys like Caleb or Jaden Daniels or Drake May or Bo Nix. And he waits that. And so basically that third year, I'm not saying that third year's a wash, but that's when he had his most success, right? When they had 7 wins, when they actually had some consistency on the team and the coaching staff, so on and so forth. They ended up getting 7 wins. Then they draft a rookie quarterback who in most cases, people keep talking like every rookie quarterback in the world is going to be CJ Stroud or Jaden Daniels. Guys, the fact of the matter is that's just not the case. They are the exception to the rule. Most rookie quarterbacks come to the NFL struggle, which is exactly what Caleb did from time to time.
The longest streak in the NFL last year, and I think he has the record for the most time without an interception as a rookie. That's ridiculous.
And you got Caleb Williams coming into the NFL as a rookie, and he's learning from a guy like Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus, 2 boobs that obviously don't belong in the NFL. And people are upset and saying, "Oh, Ryan Poles sucks," and this team, that's why this team won 5 wins. Now, yes, granted, I'm going to give him. It's also his fault that he retained Matt Eberflus, but
that's his biggest mistake.
There are reports that both he was waiting for Caleb and Ben Johnson. I don't know if it's true or not, but it is a possibility. You can't just say that there's no way and no chance in hell that that's what he's waiting for, because obviously the Bears made a very strong push to get Ben Johnson the second that the season was over. That's their guy. They knew that was their guy from day one. Now it's a victim. So you had a 2-win team, then a 5-win team, then a 7-win team, something along those lines. Then you get a rookie quarterback and it drops back down to a 5-win team because you expect that rookie quarterback to go through struggles and have to learn how to play at the NFL speed, right? Now, here we are with a good offensive play caller, a guy we expect to be a good head coach. You've loaded this roster with talent, at least on the offensive side of the ball. You have what we believe is going to be a franchise quarterback. Some people believe generational quarterback. You rebuilt the offensive line, so this guy has more time to learn how to play football, and he's not seeing ghosts. He's not creating bad habits. This is kind of how you should have expected these records to go. At no point in the last 4 years was I looking at the Chicago Bears and going, this team's going to win 15 games. They might win a Super Bowl. I mean, there just was never – they were never in a situation to do so. They were never – but here's what it is, guys. This is it. This is it.
This is the time.
This year right here, this is it. The Ryan Poles is out of excuses as well as Caleb Williams and everybody else. This is it. If the Bears severely underperform this year, say they win 4, 5, 6 games, there is probably no doubt in my mind that Ryan Poles is going to be fired.
If we lose that many games, I want it to be like 38-36 every game. Like I want it to be like at least good. I don't want double doinks. I don't want Hail Marys. I don't want any of these dumb play called, no timeouts when they should have been called. I don't want any stupid mistakes on the coaching staff. I want to see development. If I see Caleb Williams get even better and the record is bad, for some, we're still in the toughest division in football.
With the toughest schedule in football.
Right. So I'm not expecting them to win a lot of games this year. I just want to see all the draft picks.
You want to see improvement, right?
Right. I want to see, and I'll tell you what, the real test of Ryan Poles is, after hiring this coach and then he hires this coaching staff, if they can make some of these quote unquote failed picks look better, Kieran Amagaji, Austin Booker, all of a sudden his draft picks start looking way better. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they will, but if they turn those guys around to be valuable, rotational starters, great. Those are great picks.
And this is one of the things, Scottish Bear, I'm going to get to this for you because you need to wait 3 years for players to develop,
especially third rounds and later. I mean, those guys are never projected to come in and start from day one. They're developmental players. That's what they are.
Yeah, I'm not saying he was all world, but in 22, his late round picks still on the team. Braxton Jones, starter. Dominic Robinson's a bum. Zachary Thomas is gone. Ebner's gone. Doug Kramer, backup center. Elijah Hicks is a backup safety. That was from 2022. 2023, his later picks still on the team. Zach Pickens, who I do think is a bust. I'm still leaving the book and jury out on Roshan Johnson. Terrell Smith came in during the season and had some shining moments. Wasn't a world beater, but definitely a good depth piece. And if you go to 2024, Torrey Taylor in the 5th round, or actually that was the 4th round, excuse me. You still have the development of Austin Booker. You still don't know what Karan Amagaji is going to be. So there's still there's still a lot of parts of his drafts for players to develop, especially now that you have good, experienced coaches that know how to
that's
coach you
Yeah.
up.
like, it's two things
And
I want
use
to
them right. Put them in the right position.
Yeah,
Maybe
two things I want to say
maybe
real
guys are
quick.
good, but
You
they're
can't
just standing all in the same zone. So when you throw the ball over, none of them catch it.
You
Oh,
can't
geez,
have your cake and eat it too, Bears fan. You can't
Right.
say that thank God the Bears got rid of this coaching staff. We hated this coaching staff so much. They were terrible at everything they did, and then be like, I don't understand why these players haven't developed. Ryan Post must be really shitty at drafting football players. Well, do you think that maybe the lack of development has hurt some of these guys? I think there's a very strong chance. How do we go from getting a guy who was playing at a Pro Bowl level in Tremaine Edmonds, and he comes over to play under Matt Eberflus, and he's one of the worst linebackers in the NFL? I mean, there's definitely something to be said about that. And then secondly, like Lions fans who keep saying, oh, the Bears are going to suck, the Bears are awful, it's the same story over and over again, but then they sit there and brag about how well the Lions have played the last 3 years. Well, we just took the reason that you guys have played so well for the last 3 years. We just took Ben Johnson. The reason the Lions have been good for the last 3 years is because they scored 33 points a game, and he is now our head coach with probably a better quarterback, probably better receivers, and an adamant offensive line, and a running back room that seems to be getting better every day, and it's not finished yet. I mean, if I'm the Lions, Vikings, and Packers, I'm not happy about the Bears getting Ben Johnson. I'm not happy about the Bears drafting Caleb Williams number 1 overall. I'm not happy about the Bears getting DJ Moore in that amazing trade and drafting Rome Odunze. The Bears, for me, you guys, listen, and it's how we could talk about Ryan Poe's drafts all day, but how come nobody ever wants to bring up the best trade in NFL history, signing the most prestigious, or at least the coach that everybody wanted the most desirable coach in the offseason? Nobody wants to talk about that, but somehow he lured him into Chicago, and he's also drafted a franchise quarterback for the first time in Chicago Bears history. This guy gets no credit for any of that shit. Come on,
man. Sid Luckman was a franchise quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. Jay Cutler's statistically our best quarterback ever. That's really what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it took Ryan Post 2 years here to get a better quarterback than every quarterback that's ever played for the Chicago Bears.
I wanted to touch on this from Scottish Bear. The quality of depth on the O-line ain't there.
Correct.
Scottish Bear, I agree with you. We had this discussion on Monday. It got heated on the show about it. I've said this repeatedly. I think I was not a big fan of the Jonah Jackson signing. Hopefully he works out and starts 17 games for the Bears. His track record doesn't say that is going to happen. Hopefully it does. I am with you. I think Kyle's on the same page. I don't know where Jay is because
I am. That's why I don't think Ryan Bates is going to get cut, because I think they need another lineman on the team.
Well, the only reason I went with Ryan Bates is because Ryan Bates right now, based on what they've drafted and what's here, has no position. I mean,
other than backup, right?
I guess he's a backup guard center, but you just drafted Newman. You think Bates is your backup center, so I don't know. The Bears have to come up with a big move to gain some money. Ryan Bates seems like a failed 5th-round trade to me. I agree. I think Kramer is a bum, Broski Bear. I said this on Monday.
Oh, wait, don't we have that Canadian kid coming back?
Theo Benedette is still on the roster. Yes. Don't know what he's going to be. I said this, Kyle. I've said this. I said what they did getting Tooney, Dolman, Jackson, having Darnell Wright. I said I thought it was a very good start, but
you changed my mind. I think Bates is gone. I think you're right.
Start. Quality backups.
You guys, real quick,
On Monday, I did say the Bears should be looking for a quality veteran backup center in case something happens to Dolman, because Dolman also, who I wanted the Bears to sign, has an injury history. That's all I got to say. I am with you 100%, Scottish Bear, on the quality of the depth of the offensive line. I couldn't agree more, my brother.
Yeah, and Don Burr here says this idiot. I'm assuming he means me.
He's just trolling the whole thing.
No, that's all right. But I just want to say something real quick about that. I'm not worried about what Don or whatever thinks about me. What I'm saying is he basically said that the only reason the Lions were good is because of the roster. Like he's talking about Jahmyr Gibbs. And listen, 100% the Lions have a good roster. But if you think that coaching has nothing to do with success in the NFL, then you're absolutely insane. As a matter of fact, I could argue that the NFL coach is more important to their team than any other sport in the world. And I promise you guys, the Lions may very well be a good team this year, but they're not going to continue the 33.1 points per game that they've done. I mean, listen,
I agree.
Everybody in the NFL respects Ben Johnson and admires the innovative things he does on a football field. If he's so good and everybody loves him so much and he's so good at being innovative and doing new things that we've never seen before, all these trick plays, then how could you possibly be like, well, he doesn't matter? If he didn't matter, then people wouldn't be constantly applauding him for what he does on a football field. There's going to be huge difference in that Detroit Lions offense, and they're going to take a step back. I promise you, they're going to. Not to mention, all of the players in the Lions offense have to learn either new terminology or a new playbook. One or the other is coming, and that's going to affect them. I promise. It may not be monumental. They still might score 28 points a game, 29 points a game, which is good in the NFL. But I'd rather score 33.1 points per game if I'm them. That's just me.
Yeah, I lost you guys there for a second. I don't know if you saw me blank out, so I missed everything you just said. Sorry.
Basically talking about how important coaching is in the NFL. And it's certainly like Lions fans are talking like it's a positive that they lost their entire coaching staff in the offseason besides Dan Campbell. It's not a positive. It's not a positive because you're going to run into some Shane Waldrons, I promise.
Hey, and really quick, I want to acknowledge we got 90, almost 90, 89, 88. It just went down one. We just lost somebody. We got 88 in the building.
Maybe we lost Dan Burr or Don Burr.
Howie Our Bears, Squeegee, TB17, even Don Burr, Erica.
Oh, he's back. There you are, buddy.
Everybody in the chat. Thank you guys so much for spending a little bit of your Wednesday with us. You guys are the stars of the show. And we really appreciate y'all being out here, hanging out with us for a little bit, talking.
Scrolls, thanks for coming back, man. Scottish Bear, Breaking News, Bruce, Ant Mass, all you guys. We appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for joining us, man. Even the trolls or the Don Burrs, you're obviously taking 2 hours out of your night to come hang out with a bunch of Chicago Bears fans. So we appreciate you for that, man.
Absolutely.
I think Tyson Bajent's mom or dad is on the chat there. That TB17. He really loves Bajent.
Are you related to Tyson Bajent, TB17?
It's a theme. We remember at one point we thought he was Tyson Bajent. I mean, it's Tyson Bajent 17. I mean,
we're up to 90. Him. We're up to 93. Let's get 7 more in the building and kick this thing up to 100.
Squeegee, thank you guys. Squeegee here says, I just ran across this. I just have liked, subbed, and hit the bell. Thank you so much.
Oh, man. Thank you,
Squeegee.
Sean, let's get that round of applause for him.
You are the man. Hold on. I got to scroll all the way down. Thank you, Squeegee. We really appreciate you, man. Really, really do. Everybody,
Sean, you got to answer this question because this Howie just keeps asking and asking and asking. He really wants an explanation for why the Bears extended Jonah Jackson. So when do you guys want to take a shot at that?
I honestly don't know. He does have a history with Ben Johnson. He was successful with Ben Johnson in Detroit. Those were his good years. Since leaving Detroit, he's been injury riddled, moved around the line. When he did come back to health, he lost his job to a rookie. So
but he was playing center. He lost his center.
He was playing
job.
not his position.
Yeah, his position on a football field should be right guard. That's where he's obviously been most comfortable. Now listen, Howie, I'm not saying I agree with the extension, but I mean, you guys, at the end of the day, you have to imagine that Ben Johnson had a say in this. I mean, he definitely had a say in this. He definitely had a say in getting Jonah Jackson here. I don't know how much he has to do with the contract negotiations, but he definitely had a say in getting Jonah Jackson here. So he believes at right guard, Jonah Jackson is much better than people have given him credit for it. Now, there's only one way to find out, Howie. There's only one way to find out.
He knows who he is. Correct.
If this guy comes out here and kills it, then, and you know what, the extension, Howie,
I agree,
is very,
Bears fan for life.
if you go look at the details of the extension, after this is it the first year or the second year? The Bears basically have a buyout. I mean, they can easily get out of that Jonah Jackson contract. And I think that's part of the reason why they just drafted a guard in the recent NFL 25 NFL draft. The Bears have options. They have Ryan Bates. They have Bill Murray. I wouldn't right now. This is the deepest this offensive line has been in a long time. They're still not complete. Yeah, but it's deeper than it's been in years past, for sure.
And maybe when we were talking about developing the defensive line, maybe we can help develop some of these younger offensive linemen that we've drafted over the years and get them into the spots that they need to be.
Yeah, Jordan Goff was kicked out of LA as well.
You know, they could develop into players.
And then LA won a Super Bowl.
Well, I was going to say too. You know, like for me, I don't know if you remember this, but I know everyone was jumping for joy when we signed Jonah Jackson. I was not. I was like, oh, okay. He's an average old lineman, maybe a step up above Nate Davis because he's actually going to show up and he's going to actually practice. You know, but I wasn't a big fan. I was hoping that they were going to draft a quality starting guard in this draft that would possibly steal his job if he were to get hurt.
Sure. But you can't draft everything in one draft. Right?
For sure.
7 draft picks and 53 men on a football field.
Having 4 picks last year hurt.
Broski Bear, I
Big
said
time.
this immediately after the draft. Jake Majors and Seth McLaughlin. McLaughlin played for the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes on a damn good offensive line. We're both undrafted free agents. I don't understand why the Chicago Bears did not at least try and sign one of those two dudes, especially you guys remember we did O-line. I did a special on Jake Majors. When we did that special, Jake Majors was the 3rd round pick. I don't know why he fell out undrafted, but I can tell you this. He was the anchor. He allowed 0 sacks for the Texas Longhorns last season at the center position. They said he was the captain of that line. He controlled that line. That would have been a fantastic addition to this locker room for the Chicago Bears. I am miffed. And it's some of the things upset me that happened in this draft because I'm going to say, I think the Bears had a good draft. I think I'd rather have some other players where those picks were. Like, I think we missed out on Xavier Watts big time, you know, and maybe Trapilo turns into the left tackle of the future and he's here for 10 years. And I can say, you know what? We didn't really need Xavier Watts that bad. But right now on the surface, I'd rather myself have Watts in that position. So, but again, I think the Bears did a fantastic job in this draft. I think they did fill some positions of need. I think the jury will be out on these guys. We'll see what happens when they hit the grass. We'll go from there.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword because every Bears fan in the world was like, I want the Bears to draft offensive defensive line. I want the Bears to draft offensive defensive line. The Bears draft offensive defensive line, and every Bears fan in the world was like, oh my God, why did we draft offensive defensive line? It's a catch-22, guys. No Bears fan in the world is ever going to be happy. There's players I wanted in that draft we did not get. I wanted a Travion Henderson. I wanted a Quinshon Judkins. I wanted a Caleb Johnson. Obviously, the Bears, we talked about it this morning. We saw a report came out. The Bears tried to trade up Travion Henderson.
Yeah.
None of the teams in front of them were having it. They were asking for way too much. Some of them were asking for future draft capital next year for a 2nd round pick, which is insane. And the Bears ultimately were like, well, once Travion Henderson was off the board, our Jahmyr Gibbs is not in this draft. So we'll worry about that position next year. I'm going to say it time and time and time again until people start listening. Rome was not built in a day, you guys. It takes a long time for these teams to get to championship caliber status. Like, you can even look at the Lions. The Lions are one of the best teams on paper, right? Still haven't won a championship. As a matter of fact, they haven't even been to one. So
ever. What's that shadowy light in the distance, Dad? That's a Super Bowl. No Lion has ever been there.
Yeah, it's a long drawn out process, and it's going to be some things are going to frustrate you, and some things are. Listen, there's people who are like, man, I wanted a running back where they drafted Luther Burden, but if Luther Burden comes out and scores 8 touchdowns next year, you're going to be like, what running back? What are you talking about? Did I say that? You just never know.
I will tell you this. I think we get stuck on this whole 85 Bears where we expect the team to be exactly like that, where we're just completely dominant, because the offense was actually very good as well. People forget about that. We were putting up points. But that's not how the NFL works now. Teams need to be well balanced, and it's really hard, like you said, to draft a team in 1 year, right? You need multiple years. You need a mix of free agents and rookies. You need to develop the talent. Offensive linemen take 2 or 3 years to develop. Quarterbacks take 2 or 3 years to develop. Not everybody's going to get a Justin Jefferson and a Jamar Chase. You know what I mean? Every year. Not everybody's going to get a Saquon Barkley every year.
Many of them don't exist. There's not many Justin Jeffersons in the world, or they would all be in the NFL.
Right.
We would see a ton of them.
It is what it is. And time will tell. I'm hoping, my biggest hope is that regardless of our record this year, I would love to see them make the playoffs, of course, but I just want to see them develop everybody. I want to be competitive in every single game. I don't want to miss and lose a game, because we've lost quite a few by mistakes this year. Quite a few. 1-score games by stupid coaching mistakes. Yeah. So I'm hoping we develop and don't do that, and we might be just fine.
Yeah, and midway through the season, Jason, you'd like to see them start to finish games, right? You have to start adding wins. If you're not winning games, at some point it's all redundant. Like, at some point, the Bears need to have to start adding wins. Like, too many times the Bears last year were like, we've lost 4 games, but they're all 1-score games, and we were highly competitive. And I'm like, I don't care. At some point, you need to start winning those games, and winning can only help the development of your players, right? We've talked about this last year, guys. We feel like a lot of the Bears, a lot of these people in the chat, a lot of these guys who they're making fun of, guys like Jermaine Edmonds, I think they kind of gave up on the coaching staff. I think that's part of what you saw. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, you guys, Tyreek Stevenson, no doubt in my mind, gave up on the Chicago Bears, at least on Matt Eberflus. No doubt in my mind, not even a question about it. Not even a question about it.
Really quick, if I get into this, Howie, and I have a theory on this Trapilo pick. I don't know if it's true or not. Poles was friends with his dad. His alma mater, Boston College, is where he came from. I think there was some connection there. And who knows, this guy could be dynamite, but I'm with you there. I'm with one of our other co-hosts, Dustin. I said coming into this draft that I love Tate Ratledge, and
Sean's having some technical difficulties, guys.
Cylon's got him. I will tell you this about Ozzie Trapillo. On this show, I brought up Ozzie Trapillo. He is a super stud, a giant. I'll post later my scouting report on him, which is all 100% stolen, by the way. I didn't actually scout the guy, but I said that guy's going to be a monster, and thankfully, I think he is. So.
Yeah, and Jason, to Howie's point there, he's talking about how Dane Brugler had him ranked 90. Yeah, well, Howie, you can't just nitpick the article. Dane Brugler just ranked the Bears as the 7th best draft in the NFL. So obviously Dane Brugler wasn't too dumbfounded or upset or confused by why the Bears drafted who they drafted. I mean, out of 32 teams, he ranked them as the 7th best draft in the NFL, top 10. I mean, Bears fans are talking like this is the worst draft they've ever seen. And then meanwhile, all the experts are like, oh, the Bears did a pretty good job. They got a lot better. That team got a lot better for sure. I mean, the jury is out on none of these guys. Like, for instance, guys, I never even heard the name Kyle Monangai. Never heard it.
Yeah,
I watched the tape for 3 hours over the last few days. I mean, I'm talking about not every highlight, every carry, even the bad ones. That guy should not have fallen to the 7th round of the NFL draft.
Yeah,
Kyle Monangai is an absolute beast, and he always falls forward. Always. The guy always falls forward.
He's going to fall like 3 yards forward here.
Yeah, look at it. He just carries people with him consistently. It's almost every game, every highlight you watch, he's just carrying people on him. And I'm talking about bigger defensive linemen, 280, 290, 300-pound men. This guy just carries them with him. This is their new David Montgomery.
We see him block.
He was brought here to play a role. He is their new David Montgomery. This is a guy who's going to get you the tough, nitty-gritty yards. That's what he was brought here for. And what a value in the 7th round, because I think this guy is going to have one of the best short yardage careers of any running back in this draft. This guy does not lose yards. He just doesn't lose yards. Go watch the tape, guys. If you don't believe me, go watch the tape.
His blocking is ridiculous. It's literally, he hits people like he lays dudes out blocking. He's a ridiculous blocker as well. He's almost as impressive as that run right there.
He's a bowling ball. He doesn't have top end speed. No, of course. But you know what? You don't necessarily need top end speed to be successful in the NFL. They're going to ask him to play a very specific role. And I think he's going to do a very good job playing that role.
Agreed. You want to know what's funny? I just
David Montgomery that the Bears drafted, Don? Are you talking about that David Montgomery that the Chicago Bears drafted? Is that the guy you're talking about?
I mean, their college numbers. I mean, everything screams David Montgomery when it comes to this guy. It's pretty crazy, man. Trying to get this stuff off of here.
Yeah, I mean, so look at the comparison from David Montgomery. And you guys, by all accounts, Rutgers was one of the toughest schedules in football. I mean, that Big Ten with this year, those defenses were absolutely phenomenal. You go look at the highlights of who he's playing, Kyle Monangai. Every single linebacker, defensive tackle, and defensive end he's playing are guys who got drafted in the NFL. Yeah. I mean, he had one of the hardest schedules of any running back in the NFL. He led the conference in rushing yards. He averaged 5 yards a carry. He had 13 rushing touchdowns. And once again, I think all year they said of 256 attempts, I think he lost yards on like 8 of them. Isn't that what they said, Sean?
Yeah, it's really low.
8 carries for negative yards. I mean, if it's first in the goal from the 1 yard line and you got 4 attempts to get in, Kyle Monangai ain't going to need all 4 of those attempts. I promise you. He's not going to need all.
Kramer.
Not only is Kyle Monangai going to be really good for short yardage situations, but you guys, if you have to give a guy like DeAndre Swift a breather, Kyle Monangai is the guy you send in there to beat the shit out of the defensive line and just wear them down. Just keep wearing them down.
Yes.
So that guys like DeAndre Swift can take advantage of them when they're tired in the third quarter, bruised and battered, and they don't want to see Kyle Monangai anymore.
That's the purpose of the run game. That is 100% what the run game is designed to do. Move the ball and beat the hell out of the defensive line.
Never said he wanted out of Chicago, Don. You find that, you let me know. He never said that. He actually wanted to stay here, and the Bears didn't
That's
want him,
100%
which
correct.
was a terrible mistake by the Chicago.
Sean,
He was upset. He was mad that he got
He
traded.
didn't say he said he wanted out of Chicago. He said he sailed. He wanted out of Chicago. He sodded. He was sodding the
He's
garden.
from Detroit, so the fingers are probably a little sausagey, you know.
Well, I do want to touch on. Hey, welcome to the show, Dennis. I'm a little behind because my internet is completely messing with me tonight.
Took a tall buddy.
But I think Erica mentioned
it's
earlier.
tough to read.
What's that?
That's some of these comments here are tough to read.
He said the
grammatical
losing
errors.
took a tall buddy.
I wanted to get your guys' opinion because we touched on this a little bit on Monday. But this gentleman is working out, putting out some impressive tape. We're speaking none other than Nick Chubb. Eric in the comments said, let's sign Nick Chubb and round out this room. Let's take a look at his recovery so far.
Come on. Let's go. Let's go, Nick. Let's go. Let's go, Juice. Let's go, Juice. There you go. There you go. Come on. Another one. Hey, come on, man. What you like? Come on, man. That shit too light. Come on, go attack it. Let's go. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the knee looks pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's 500 pounds in both of those videos, man. I mean,
Yeah, he's a physical specimen.
coming off of that horrific knee injury, that's some impressive shit. And I'm okay with the Bears sign him, especially if we're talking about getting him at that $1.5 million clip. I would definitely bring this guy in because now if he's not the player, you still got Monangai here, and you'll have Nick Chubb. And if Nick Chubb is just say 3/4 of himself, I still think that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, even after his abysmal season last year, this guy is still averaging over 5 yards a carry in his career. And you guys, one season he averaged over 6 yards a carry. That is very, very rare in the NFL.
Cleveland was a mess as well last year, though. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, and it's his. I don't blame the 3.3 yards per carry last year on him as much as I do the disaster that was the Cleveland Browns. But real quick, Sean, since you brought it up, I did some deep research in it because I know that the flip side of it, a lot of people are saying they want to see the Bears sign J.K. Dobbins.
Hey, Kyle, really quick. Hey, Don, you know why we're showing that? Because this guy had the most horrific knee injury we've ever seen in a professional football game. That's why the workout video was shown.
Definitely up there for sure. That thing was absolutely brutal, dude. But I really want to I want to compare the two real quick, guys, because I know a lot of Bears fans are lobbying for the Bears to sign J.K. Dobbins over Nick Chubb. First and foremost,
Also injury prone.
First and foremost, let me tell you what stood out to me the most, guys, is these guys are a lot alike. I mean, a lot. I'm not talking about running style or anything. I'm just talking about if you look at their NFL careers, for both of them are averaging over 5 yards a carry for their career. Both of them. Both of them have sustained major injuries multiple times in their careers, and that goes back to college for Nick Chubb. We know he blew up that same knee in college. Here's the difference, though. If you look at Nick Chubb's injuries, both of those knee injuries were kind of like wrong place, wrong time, victim of circumstance injuries. Like this, where like his foot got caught in the grass, he got hit in the knee by somebody running 100 miles an hour, and his knee exploded. If you look at J.K. Dobbins' injuries, a lot of these are just maintenance injuries and injuries that are non-contact, which to me is more concerning. Like I know that the first torn Achilles he had was a non-contact injury. I believe that one was actually in the preseason in 2023. But I mean, this guy has had a ton of injuries since 2016 in college. Dobbins has a fibula fracture, 2 high ankle sprains, thigh hamstring tear, an LCL tear, a knee meniscus trim, a knee ACL tear, Achilles tear, and an MCL sprain. I mean, the guy, and if you look at his career, guys,
it's a walking injury.
Yeah, here's the difference between the two of them. Here's the major difference for me personally. Nick Chubb has played in the NFL for 7 years. 4 of those seasons were basically 100% healthy. I think one of those 4 years, he missed like one game or something.
He had a 4-year stretch where he had like over 6,000 yards on purpose. I mean,
it's just nothing to be ashamed of if you're Nick Chubb. This guy has been absolutely phenomenal in the NFL, and he should not be ashamed of his career. If you look at J.K. Dobbins, guys, this guy's played in the NFL for 4 years. He's only had one healthy season, and I consider it a healthy season, but he still missed 2 games that season. So technically, J.K. Dobbins has never played an entire season. Nick Chubb, outside of those 2 major injuries he's had, and then I know that he broke his foot last year, late in the year, but by that time that the season was pretty much over. I know it has nothing to do with the injury, guys, but Nick Chubb basically suffers injuries when he gets hit by other players. It seems like J.K. Dobbins' body is just not meant for football. He just kind of seems like the Derrick Rose of the NFL, or I guess I could compare him to a guy like Mike Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is just always finds a way to get injured.
Yeah.
He always finds a way to get injured. If I'm going to take one of the 2 right now, just because, like you said, Sean, Nick Chubb is most definitely going to be the cheaper of the 2, especially because J.K. Dobbins is coming out such a good season.
We got 100 in the building. Thank you guys so very, very much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. That century mark is super special to us. So thank you guys so much. Y'all deserve a round of applause.
Yeah,
thank you for
guys,
spending
man.
some time with us on a Wednesday.
Squeegee said, "Go Cubs, go!" They have men at 2nd and 3rd with nobody out. Kyle Tucker at bat, and they are down 2-1 in the 5th.
It's already 2-2.
Oh, am I behind? Is my streaming behind here? Sorry, guys. Yeah, but I mean, if I had to pick between the 2 guys, I'm picking Nick Chubb. I just think there's higher upside with Nick Chubb for me personally. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Now, would you prefer we skip Nick Chubb altogether and get like a veteran edge rusher, or no? Because the edge rusher might be a little bit more expensive.
You guys know where I stand on this. I'm offense. Make Caleb Williams as comfortable as you possibly can. That means adding another running back to make sure this run game takes some of the pressure off Caleb Williams. Then go ahead another running back. I want to see Caleb Williams throw for 4,300 yards, over 30 touchdowns. And then once you know that Caleb Williams is who we all think he is, and you know that he's capable of making everybody around him better, then go adjust that defense next year.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I couldn't agree
You guys,
more.
I would be happy if next year's draft is running back, offensive line, defense. I'd be fine with that.
Are you frozen, Sean?
Sean frozen again? Yeah, Sean's frozen again. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect the Bears to make any huge. I mean, Jason, do you disagree? I mean, at this point, the Bears roster is pretty much what you're going to get, right?
It is. You're just fine-tuning depth and things like that at this point.
I don't think a trade for Trey Hendrickson or signing the most warranted free agent is coming for the Chicago Bears at this point. Like I said, I don't believe that they believe they're in the position to win a Super Bowl this year. I think they just want to see, like Jason's talked about many times now, they just want to see improvement from week 1 to week 17, and not only from the team as a whole, but from each individual player, especially these young draft picks or guys like Caleb Williams coming into his 2nd year, learning a brand new system. You just got to try to make it as easy for Caleb Williams as you possibly can. And if you do, I think good things will follow. I think the Chicago Bears are probably going to be more competitive than most people think, but probably be somewhere around that 8, 9, 10 win mark, somewhere around there. I don't think,
which is fine. You probably won't make the playoffs because,
and that keeps. I think that keeps Ryan Poles' job. Do you?
Oh yeah, it keeps everybody's job. That's double-digit wins. You don't make the playoffs again, mostly because you're in this division. It would probably win in the AFC South or NFC South or NFC West, but it's not going to win in the NFC North. 14 or 15 wins is probably going to win the NFC North again. But I would say you're right. The most important developmental piece on the Bears right now is Caleb Williams. If we can't develop Ozzie Trapillo, but we can develop Caleb Williams, it's a win. It's a win. It doesn't matter. It's still a win. But I'm interested to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see some of these spring camps start to break out, and they're really starting to run real practices and things like that. Because then we're really going to see this team develop. Who's getting first team reps? Who's not getting first team reps? Who's at left tackle? Who's at right tackle? That's going to be a big question this offseason. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for it just because it's football, but it's Bears. I think if everything is going the way that we think it is going, we're going to be just fine. There's no need for panic just yet, guys.
Well, here, Jason, I'll let you answer this question. So I've heard some of this in recent weeks. I've heard rumblings that the Seattle Seahawks are willing to part way with Kenneth Walker. I know they just signed a running back, drafted a running back last year. They drafted another running back this year. I don't know how much validity there's behind these rumors, guys. I don't know if the Seahawks are willing to trade Kenneth Walker, but Jason, if they were willing to trade Kenneth Walker, this guy's only going to cost something around $1.8 million this year. Would that be something you'd be willing to do if you're the Chicago Bears? Go at least call and see what they're looking for.
Well, you should always take the call. I don't care who's calling and what the trade is for. You should always take the call because you never know. You might learn something from the call. But I'm not. I love Kenneth Walker, but I'm not like in love with Kenneth Walker. My question would be: is who are we giving up for? I don't want to really trade any more draft capital. So you're looking at somebody else.
Let's say it's Cole Kmet for Kenneth Walker straight up. What are you doing?
No.
Remember, the Bears would also save money on that trade because Cole Kmet's making
correct.
somewhere around $9 million. He's making 1.8, so you'd be opening up your salary cap as well. Sean, what do you think?
I would almost say I would do it because I'm not going to lie to you. I think Kenneth Walker's an absolute beast. I mean, he has a lot of injury history, but when he's on the damn field, he is an absolute animal. I would do it. I would hate to part ways with Cole Kmet to do it, but
right.
I think you need to figure out what works, what Ben Johnson works for Ben Johnson, and having a quality backfield, I think, is something that is very important to him. And I think that if you were to acquire a guy like Kenneth Walker, I think Monangai would be a great compliment if Kenneth Walker, he misses 3 weeks, 4 weeks every single season. If he misses that time, you plug in Monangai, and I really don't think you skip a beat. I mean, that's just me,
Well, and I think that trade would help both teams. I mean, they have Zach Charbonnet there in Seattle. I think they like Zach Charbonnet a lot. He's probably going to get increasingly more and more playing time.
I would take Zach Charbonnet.
As his career goes on. And they could certainly use a Cole Kmet there in Seattle as well, another weapon for Sam Darnold. I mean, that trade would certainly be interesting. I don't know if there's any truth or validity behind these Kenneth Walker rumors, but yeah, like Jason said, if they're dangling him out there, if they're like, hey, Kenneth Walker's available, I would certainly make a call. For sure. What does it hurt?
It's not going to hurt. It's your job as a GM to figure out what the other team's doing and what they want.
You need a running back.
Sorry, Bears fan for life. I don't know what's going on with my internet today. My microphone broke this week. I am having a shitty podcasting week.
In Sean's defense, you guys. In Sean's defense, Sean lives in a small town in Illinois that does Comcast for some reason does not offer internet service to it. That's very strange.
We just learned in the pre-show that I think it just opened up the Comcast.
Yeah. Sean might have a new internet next week, boys.
I'm making a phone call tomorrow. I'm not even lying.
All right, Sean, anything else you guys want to talk about before we start talking about some fantasy? Way too early fantasy predictions for these rookies?
I think really quick. Really quick. We're going to play this just for the amusement of ourselves because I want to touch on how I think that I love Ben Johnson for bringing this rivalry back to Chicago because it is back 100%.
Do you have beef with Coach Johnson?
I was waiting for this. I don't know Ben Johnson.
So do you have beef?
Do I have beef? I don't know Ben Johnson. I respect him as a football coach. He did a nice job.
Yeah, but do we not feeling the same thing right now?
Yeah, well, yeah.
But if you don't know him, why is it tight in here?
It's not tight. I'm not tight. I thought it was interesting.
What was interesting?
I thought the press conference was interesting, but I don't have beef with him.
And to be quite frank with you, I kind of enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
I don't get all into that stuff. I thought it
was.
But
you'll harness it.
He'll see the eye emojis after a win. You'll send.
I don't have his number, so that won't happen.
You gonna Jim Harbaugh him after a game?
No,
you beat him?
I would never do that.
Do you have the strength to do that?
I don't know. Probably not. Apparently not. Apparently not.
No, I'd never do that. Do you?
I'm not gonna lie. Matt LaFleur seems like a pretty cool dude.
He does. He does. I was going to say the same thing. Very laid back, down to earth, very level headed, logical. I will say, though, it looked almost forced to me when Ben Johnson made that comment. I don't think Ben Johnson's much of a shit talker. I think he kind of did that to appease the masses of the Bears
Oh, I
fans.
think
Like,
so.
every
100%.
Bears coach who's ever been hired has to make some remark about the Packers. He probably spent weeks figuring out what he was going to say about the Green Bay Packers, and that's just the last thing he settled on. But yeah, I think it's fun and it's good for football. And you know what? I think the Bears-Packers rivalry is back in more than just a couple ways. Not just shit talking, boys. I think these two teams are much better than they were 10. I think the Bears are much better than they were for the last 10 years.
I
Guys.
agree.
It's going to be different.
Sean,
The
what was
Bears,
their record-
the Bears
what's
should have
his
beat the
record
Packers last year twice.
The Packers?
Ben Johnson, since taking over the offensive coordinator duties for the Detroit Lions, is 5-1 versus the Green Bay Packers. And I think that kind of stemmed where that comment came from. I kind of like beating him twice a year because he has every year except for one.
And guys, Dustin just joined the chat here. What's up, Dustin? Dustin says, please get them likes up. Yeah, guys, if you haven't already and you're in the chat here, if you're listening on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, please like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We appreciate you guys so much. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this at all. Thanks so much for joining us. If you guys continuing to leave your comments, we'll try to get to as many of them as we possibly can. I think it's time for us to get into a little way too early fantasy projections for these rookies.
Yeah.
2025, guys. Sean, do you want to start it off?
Yeah, we're just strictly talking rookies here.
Yeah, and obviously, you guys, this will change, right, Sean? Like, let's make that clear.
Oh,
like
100%.
this, you guys, we haven't seen what their roles are going to be. We haven't seen them in preseason. We haven't seen how the offensive lines are going to play out for when you're talking about the running back. We don't know the quarterback situations for teams like the Steelers. So this is all going to change. This is just what we put together for you guys.
Yeah,
just
I was going to say this is strictly they got drafted, the situation they fell into, and that's it. Yeah, and again,
well, and their
we do
talent
our
level
fantasy rankings. I mean, I did place. I forgot to do the wide receivers, but I placed my running backs in the top 100 of where I think they should be ranked. But we don't have to get into that because
let's just go 1 through 10 for the top rookie running backs in 2025 in fantasy.
Our ranks or whose ranks?
Our ranks for who we think is going to be the number one fantasy rookie. 1 through 10. So, like, for instance, I'll go first and we'll go around the room here. I think for rookie running backs, I have, I'm sure you guys are probably going to agree, but for number one, Sean, let's go one by one. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to finish the season as the number one fantasy rookie running back in 2025. And there's so many things I can say to why, but I'll just make it real quick, guys. I think this team did ultimately get better with Geno Smith, although I don't love Geno Smith. I think he was much better than the options they had last year. I think this offense is going to sustain drives. They are going to score more than they did last year. They had one of the worst offenses in the NFL. This is a team that added a guy like Jack Beck. You got Brock Bowers going into his second year. I still like Jacoby Myers a lot. I think Ashton Jeanty is a player who's definitely going to get the bulk of the carries in Las Vegas. I don't know if they still have Alexander Madison or Zamir White, but who cares? You drafted Ashton Jeanty number 6 overall. I expect him to get a huge workload. And just on that solely, guys, I think he is going to finish as the number one fantasy running back for rookies. Jason?
I agree for everything you just said. I honestly, the top, I would say 7 guys on my list here.
That was for the chat.
Heavily weighted. That's okay. They're heavily weighted that way, mostly because it's fantasy football, and I'm looking for touch share, right? So if they're going to have a heavy volume in the majority of the shares, they're the lead back. Those are the guys that I'm thinking that are probably going to start for the team, and that's why they're up there. And that's really why Ashton Jeanty is there. He's going to run the ball. He's got the rock. He's the guy in passing downs. He's the guy in running downs. He's the guy that's going to get the ball.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
I mean, I don't need to really get into it, but I mean, we saw the backs that are on the roster right now.
Lack thereof.
So,
garbage.
Yeah, this is good landing spot.
Easy no-brainer. All right, Kyle, who's your number 2?
I think we're going to be different here, everybody.
All right, guys. My number 2, and I know this sounds cliche because I feel like I'm just kind of going on here, but I think Omarion Hampton is going to end up being the number 2 running back rookie running back in 2025 fantasy. The reason I say that is because you're talking about a guy who got drafted into a run-heavy offense and a good offense. I think the Chargers are actually going to end up having a pretty good offense this year. I think Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a coach. He wanted Omarion Hampton for a reason. This was his guy. I think he's going to plug into that offense pretty seamlessly. Harvey. I think he's a much better option than Gus Edwards. And I think Hampton's going to both catch the ball and score a lot of touchdowns. So he's going to have a lot of fantasy points. And then once again, I forgot to mention this, guys. These are PPR ratings. So I think Amari Hampton could do a little bit of everything. And I think he's going to have a lot of fantasy points this year.
I don't think you're that far off there. I mean, I had him, believe it or not, at 6. Really, here's the deal, though. He's going to get, again, the ball a lot, right? They in that scheme, they love to run the ball. They're not big.
Well, Jason, who is your number 2?
My number 2 is RJ Harvey in Denver. Okay. Another guy who I think is going to get the rock all day long, whether it's the running game or the pass game.
Tell us why, Jason. Why is he the second? Besides opportunity, what else makes him the second best running back in fantasy this season?
He has great hands. He has great vision. He can hit gaps. He is Alvin Kamara, and that's what he's going to be. If that's my comp, if you're looking for one, that's how I think that team thinks he is, and that's who I think he's going to be. I think if RJ Harvey went to a different team, I don't think I rate him number 2, and I don't think he has such the opportunity. But at this team, with that scheme, he's like a perfect isotoner that fits over your hands. You know what I mean? It's just a perfect fit.
Sean, your number 2?
My number 2 is RJ Harvey. You guys know when we did this show a couple of weeks ago, I said my sleeper running back of this draft was RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey fell into an immaculate situation. Now, I don't want anyone to forget about Estime, because I think Audric Estime is a very good running back. I think he's going to have some timeshare. Yeah, he's going to have some timeshare in this backfield. But if I was looking at it, I'm probably going to say 60-40. The pieces around, when you look, and I'm not making this up, you guys can go to PFF and look it up. Out of all the running backs that were drafted to the teams that they were drafted to, the number 1 run blocking offensive line was the Denver Broncos. They have a great run offensive line.
God, Javonte Williams sucks.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like,
how are you not better?
You saw Estime in his small samples look like a really good running back last year. Like, he had some juice. Denver passed a lot last year. Cortland Sutton, and that's the other thing. They have weapons on the outside. Bo Nix was phenomenal last year, getting out of the pocket, extending plays. So you have that threat of the quarterback there as well. I just think RJ Harvey fell into the best spot of any person here. And I'll tell you, Sean Payton, this is a Sean Payton guy. Alvin Kamara was a Sean Payton guy, and look at what he did with him. Now Payton has 2 of his guys in the backfield. They're going to be spectacular this year. They're going to be spectacular this year.
Yeah, and real quick, I forgot to mention, guys. I'm sorry. I also put the round I would draft them in fantasy. I think Ashton Gianti is worth a late first round pick in fantasy football. I think he's going to get you that value. I think Amari Hampton, to me, would be around the middle of the second round in fantasy football. I'd be willing to draft Amari Hampton now. With a lot of these guys like Hampton and even Harvey, the key word is patience, guys. Patience. So make sure you got a backup plan. But yeah, I think by the week 6, 7, 8, I expect these guys to be starting and playing very well in their systems. And then real quick, Sean, I'm just going to get to my next one, number 3, because you guys just basically stole my thunder. RJ Harvey is my number 3, and it's solely based off of the situation. Obviously, Sean Payton loves this guy. I think he does see him, like Jason said, as his next Alvin Kamara. And I think he looks at that running back duo like Mark Ingram and Kamara, what were in New Orleans. And I think RJ Harvey's the better of the 2, and he can do more. He has a much more versatile skill set, and I think he's going to catch the ball a lot. And like we talked about this earlier, Sean, if you can get a guy who can get 4 catches, or running back 3 or 4 catches, that's 3 or 4 fantasy points. A guy who doesn't catch the ball has to run for 30 or 40 yards just to match those fantasy points. That's tough. You want guys who can catch the ball in PPR, guys.
Yeah. And I'll kick off 3 because you guys already went with the Mario Hampton. He's my number 3, obviously for the same reasons that you guys said. This is a run first team. I didn't have him at number 2, and the reason I didn't have him at number 2 is because Najee Harris is there. You guys all know I think Najee Harris sucks. I've said it for years. The guy's a plotter. He's not a really good running back in this league.
No, I didn't even think about him. That guy's not good. He's not good, dude.
I just think though, like, there's going to be some development time there for Hampton. And I think that this guy's going to, Najee Harris will start the season where when you look at RJ Harvey should be toting the rock week 1 with not much behind him. And again, I do like Estime. I'm not saying anything bad about Estime. I like RJ Harvey a lot more than Estime, though.
And honestly, you guys are going to listen to a lot of fantasy stuff coming up this year. RJ Harvey's going to come up a lot in a lot of those podcasts you guys are watching. He just is. My number 3 is one of Sean's favorite running backs, if not his favorite running back in the draft. And again, it's mostly because of the situation, and that's Caleb Johnson. They pretty much cleared out their running back room, Pittsburgh did, and they are a run-first type of program. Their quarterbacks don't look great right now unless they get maybe Aaron Rodgers, and even then it may not be that great. So, all I know is I think they're going to run a lot. I think he's going to get the ball a lot. I don't know if he's going to have as many catches as some of the other guys, but he is going to be a rushing darling. I would pick him up probably in like the second to third rounds. He's going to be all right.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm on 4. I went with 4 with Caleb Johnson for the obvious reasons that we just talked about. I think he's another one who fell into a fantastic situation. He's going to have the timeshare. I think it's going to be very similar to Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, the way they split the backfield there the last couple of years. I think you're going to see that. Not to mention when you look at what Mike Tomlin has said, Mike Tomlin went on the podium and said, this is a run heavy guy. I see 18 carries a game, not 18. He said 18 touches. That could be handoffs, passes, whatever. If the guy has 18 opportunities, I don't think Caleb Johnson's going to disappoint you guys. I really don't.
Target share is everything, man, especially at the running back position. And then if you add in receptions, it's just gold. It's butter.
Yeah, guys, I'm not. I don't need to do too much on number 4 here. My number 4 is Caleb Johnson, and I would draft him in fantasy as high as early round 3, maybe even sneak into that late round 2. I'd like to see the split there in the preseason before I make that decision. But Sean, I think you're right. I think ultimately Caleb Johnson's going to be touching the ball 17, 18, 19 times a game, and that's just based off of the opportunity alone. That's a guy who's definitely going to have a fantasy impact.
And those are your guys' 3, right? Because he's my 4 behind Hampton.
No, mine was 4. So I have Ashton Jeanty 1, Omarion Hampton 2, RJ Harvey 3, Caleb Johnson 4. So
Okay,
I've already done my 4.
My 4 is actually somebody that we haven't talked about yet, and that's Travion Henderson. Going to New England. I think it's another good fit, but I also think that Travion Henderson might surprise people and be. Obviously was touted very highly as a running back. He's tons of skill. He's a great pass catcher. He's a great rusher. He's a really twitchy guy. I mean, he can evade guys and outrun guys. I think though they don't really have much else on that roster. I think he's going to get the lion's share again. Ramondre Stevenson probably is the biggest hurt, by them signing him. But I think Travion has far much more ability than Ramondre Stevenson does, and I think they're going to love him in New England. That's my number 4.
All right, so let's go. We'll move on to my number 5 here, guys. My number 5, Dustin, I guess, is going to be disappointed, but going to like this at the same time. I'm going to finally stick Quinshon Judkins in there at number 5 for the Cleveland Browns. The reason I don't have Quinshon Judkins ranked higher, I have nothing against Quinshon Judkins. I think he's a very good running back, but the problem is they just drafted Dylan Sampson, who they're going to use. I mean, it's not like they drafted Dylan Sampson to sit on the bench and watch. This guy was a highly touted running back, and
Jerome Ford is there too, another high draft pick at the position.
Yeah, and then another reason that I have him so low at 5, and I think they're the Browns' idea is for Judkins to be their guy at some point, right? I think they expect him to be the guy at some point. But another reason I don't have Judkins higher is because I don't know who's throwing the ball for Cleveland, and I just don't think they could sustain drives and score a lot of touchdowns. I don't think this is going to be a very potent offense in the NFL that's going to score a ton of points. So the less touchdowns that the Cleveland Browns score, the less touchdowns that Quinshon Judkins is going to score. That's just they go hand in hand. So
I
for me,
agree.
Judkins, I'm picking Judkins at 5, and I would draft him as early as round 5. But I'm saying that he takes much longer than the rest of the guys we just talked about to get to that status. I think it's going to be week 9, 10, 11 when Judkins, he's going to help you a lot more in the fantasy playoffs than he is early on in the fantasy season. That's just me.
And look, when I did my ratings here, I haven't seen any of these guys take an entire snap of NFL football, so I don't know how they're going to play. I haven't seen a single rep or heard of a single rep in practice on OTA, so I don't know how these things are going to break out. One injury can move any one of these rookies.
Yeah, this is why it's way too early, right?
Way too early.
Way too early.
Listen, Dustin's not going to like it, but I put Quinshon Judkins at 9 because of Dylan Sampson, who I had at 10, simply because of their offense sucks. I don't know who is the guy there. They have too many mouths to feed. They have 17 quarterbacks, 22 running backs. They have 18 wide receivers. They don't know what they're doing. Who's getting the ball there? I don't know.
Yeah, and Dustin, sorry to cut you off, Jason. Dustin, real quick, I know you love Quinshon Judkins, but there's no way you love the Browns, man. There's no way you love the Browns.
Quinshon Judkins is great. This is not based on his talent. It's based
Who's their
on
best receiver. There's no way you love the Cleveland Browns offense. No way. This is a team that is not going to score a lot of points. They're going to finish last place in that division. There's no way in hell you could. Judkins is going to be affected by this negative situation he was drafted into. 100%. Whether you love him or not, it doesn't matter.
And on my 5th, by the way, was Omarion Hampton. I don't need to go into him because you guys already did. I do think Omarion Hampton has like super high ceiling potential, by the way. But that's what I'll
Sean, your number 5?
My number 5 is Kyle's buddy. And that is Jaden Blue.
Dang.
I also have Judkins down a little bit lower, as do I have Travion Henderson down a little bit lower, and as we get there, I'll explain that. Pretty much for Judkins, the same reasons that you just explained, Kyle. I don't like what's going on in Cleveland. Don't know who the quarterback is. Offensive line is okay, and I think they'll be down in a lot of games. So, but I went. My number 5 is Jaden Blue. I do have question marks with Jaden Blue. Right now, he is the only running back in Dallas. I do expect Dallas to sign somebody. My biggest problem with Blue is he was a part-timer. He split the backfield in college. So my question mark with him is, can he be a 3-down back in the NFL? He had very, very minimal touches in college. So I do have question marks. I don't have any question marks about his ability. He is a dynamic as dynamic comes. But as Kyle has pointed out so gracefully over the past couple of days, there is nobody else in Dallas at the moment. So, but at the same time, a 3-down back, someone who didn't do it in college, now you're going to put him on do some heavy lifting in the NFL. I just have some question marks around that. I don't have any question marks about Jaden Blue's ability. He was actually someone I was hoping the Bears might consider a little bit later on in the draft as well. Didn't work out that way, obviously. But Jaden Blue right now is my number 5.
All right, we'll move on to number 6. Sean, my number 6, you just took the words out of my mouth here, is Jaden Blue. I think Jaden Blue, the reason I have Jaden Blue, and I'll explain why Travion Henderson has dropped so low for me, guys, but the reason I like Jaden Blue so much is because Sean just said there's just really nothing else there. And you guys, at this point, there's nothing in free agency that you're going to pick up that's going to be a much better option than Jaden Blue. I'm not saying there's not a guy like a Chubb that they could go get that would have immediate impact, because there is. Those guys are out there. But Jaden Blue, not only is he going to have a big bulk of the carries for Dallas, but he's going to be their pass catcher. And we're talking about PPR. I just explained this a minute ago. If you can get a guy like Jaden Blue who can average 3 catches a game, and you already have those 3 points in fantasy, you now need the guy you're playing, his running back, if he doesn't catch the ball, has to have 30 or 40 yards rushing to equal that point total, not to mention the yards you get on those receptions. I just think Jaden Blue was put in a situation where not only is he going to get a lot of opportunity, but he's playing behind one of the best offensive lines of football. And by the way, they just drafted Tyler Booker to be their new starting guard. I just think Jaden Blue is in a very good situation in the NFL. It could not have been better for him to get drafted by the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Well, this works out perfectly because my number 6 is Jaden Blue. I'm not going to add much because you guys basically just said everything I was going to say. I think he's got the opportunity. I think he's got the talent. And I think he's on a team that is,
high potent offense. High potent offense, too. They score. When the Cowboys are healthy, they score points.
Yeah, they do.
They score points.
So we're on to 6?
No, that was 6. So do you want me to start, Sean, or do you want to take it?
Was that your 6, Jay?
Yep, was Jaden Blue.
Yeah, that was my 6. Jaden Blue was my 6. Yeah, Sean, you're on 6. You're up.
My 6 is Quinshawn Junkins. I don't have to break this down. You guys already did. I feel the same way. I think as we draw closer to September and we start seeing training camp and start seeing some things come together, maybe he'll creep up my list. For me right now, just too many question marks around Cleveland as a whole.
Said every Browns fan ever for the last 150 years. Just too many question marks in Cleveland, man. Too many people beating women over there and such. All right, next I'm going to get into my number 7, and this is the one that would probably surprise you guys. I do have Travion Henderson falling to 7, and the reason I'm saying that, guys, I like Travion Henderson a lot. I think he's actually just a much better DeAndre Swift. I think he's DeAndre Swift who has pretty much the same skill set, but at a much better, higher level. The reason I'm putting Travion Henderson down so far is because that running back room is not a weak running back room to begin with. It's not like Ramondre Stevenson is like the worst running back in the NFL.
Hold on, stick around, Howie. We're going to talk about Tootin. He's on my list, but there's some major red flags with him. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Especially early on in the season, guys, I think that Ramondre Stevenson is going to be used a lot. As a matter of fact, if I'm New England and Ramondre Stevenson's there on an expiring contract and you just drafted Travion Henderson, you know you're not winning the Super Bowl this year, I would pound Ramondre Stevenson on the ground as much as I possibly can, right? Save those legs of Travion Henderson. Use Ramondre Stevenson as much as you possibly can. And then once you get to the middle of the season and you realize you're maybe a competitive team that's competing for a playoff spot, or you want to see what you have in the future, then start sprinkling more of Travion Henderson in. But I expect the carries to be hard to come by for Travion Henderson early and often. I think he's probably going to average somewhere around 8 to 11 carries a game to begin the season, and Stevenson will be the 18 to 20 kind of guy. That's just me personally. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I'm going to sneak in before you, Jay, because my number 7 is also Travion Henderson. Pretty much for what Kyle said, Ramondre Stevenson's a beast. I think he has the trust there. I think he's going to run early in the season. I think they'll integrate, like Kyle was just saying, I think they'll integrate him into the offense slowly. And if they're not a good team, you're not going to blow them. The one other thing that I do have to worry about, because I love Big Ten football, the Buckeyes are probably my second favorite college football program in the country. Henderson has had a lot of injury concerns and a lot of injury problems at the Ohio State University. So if that translates into the NFL, he'll be missing time, but I love his talent. I think he's a great running back. And I think in the way they use him at Ohio State, if they use him that way in New England, I think he is going to have a lot of splash plays on the East Coast. So
yeah, great player, great draft pick. I just think I don't think they're going to be in any rush to bring him along. Ramondre Stevenson's a very good player as well.
Yeah.
Jason, who do you got?
I like you guys. My number 7. By the way, I agree with your analysis there, but my number 7 is Devin Neal. I think Devin Neal is going to be sneaky good. He was my favorite, one of my favorite running backs. Where Sean was big on Caleb Johnson, I was big on Devin Neal. I think he's speedy. I think he's shifty. I think he's great at catching the ball. I think he does have a tendency to run high a little bit, which is not like an Ashton Genty or like Caleb Johnson, which is probably going to get him in trouble at times. But I also think that running back room, Alvin Kamara is old. He's he had like 1,400 all-purpose yards, but he was pretty much the entire offense last year. Condre Miller, I think they have or whatever. He's a nothing, I think he had 150 yards, 200 yards.
Not gonna.
Yeah. So Devin Neal, I think where they drafted him, I think he's coming in to replace both of those guys. Now, I don't know, again, how spring training is going to work out, how his touches, can he absorb the playbook and understand the blocking schemes and things like that? I don't know. But if he gets a chance and he can succeed, he's going to succeed well there because there really isn't a big challenge for him in that running back room.
Hey, Brandon.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that.
Welcome to the show, man. First time viewer, man.
Yeah, what's
nice
up, Brandon?
To see
How you doing,
Thank
man?
you.
Appreciate you joining us. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, man. We appreciate you joining us, man. Yeah, and you guys, my number, and I'm going to get into Devin Neal later here, but my number 8, guys, is Dylan Sampson. I think early on in the start of the season, I think that Judkins-Sampson backfield is going to be about a 50-50 split. I think they're both going to have certain roles
Mason's
they're
a beast,
utilized,
man.
certain roles they're utilized for. But I think a lot of people have forgotten about Dylan Sampson because he was drafted to a team that already drafted a running back, and he was drafted late. I think Dylan Sampson is going to end up being a very good NFL player, and the fact that he has the skill set that he does and he's so talented, he's going to force himself on the field whether Judkins likes it or not. And when it comes to Dylan Sampson, I would draft him as early as round 8 in the NFL draft or in the fantasy draft. And Judkins, sorry guys, Travion Henderson at 7. I would draft him as early as round 6.
My number 8, and this is what everyone's been waiting for, is Bashal Tutin.
Oh.
Look,
Jason, is that what you had?
No.
I like Tutin, but I will say 2 years at Virginia Tech, this guy had a lot of ball security issues. And if you can't hold on to the ball, you're going to hold on to a clipboard. And that's just the bottom line. He is a tremendous athlete. I mean, good plant, cut, wiggle. If he gets in the open field, peace. See ya. You're not catching this kid. But again, ball security issues have been a problem with him in college. And like I said, if you can't hold on to the rock in the pros, you're going to hold on to a clipboard. So be careful with Tutin. I do not see them cutting. And I guess maybe they can trade Etienne because Tank Bigsby looked everything that they drafted him to be last year. He looked really, really good. But right now you have 3 good running backs in that room. You know, you can never have enough. So I wouldn't be getting rid of any of them. I still am a huge Travis Etienne fan, or Trevor Etienne.
I don't think they'd have to cut Travis Etienne.
I don't think
I believe Etienne
would
be. Yeah, he would be traded. I think there's plenty of teams that would love to take a flyer on Etienne and see if maybe they can get more out of him than the Jaguars did. And it seems to me, guys, like, not to cut you off, Jason, just 1 second here. It seems to me like
that's fine.
Every good running back who's drafted by the Jacksonville just falls short of the projection or expectations. I don't know what's going on there in Jacksonville, but I feel like no running back in Jacksonville ever meets the projections he was supposed to get. It's just strange to me. I don't know if they're throwing the ball too much or what. Sorry, Jason, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. Bashal Tutin actually fell out of my top 10 and 11 for really the main reason that there is a lot of talent in that running back room. They all seem to be fairly similar in style too. So I don't the share percentage just isn't there for me. I don't know, but you're right. If he can just stop fumbling the ball and he gets enough shots, he gets behind a good offensive line, he's gonna get you some big yardage points. He's gonna have that 40-yard run. He might not have 18 touches, but he might have 5, and 2 of them are for 20 yards. It's gonna be something like that. My number 8 is who I thought everybody would be waiting for, is Mr. Cam Scatterboo, currently now on the New York Giants roster. Listen, they've got Tyrone Tracy, who I really loved. He was my little fantasy darling last year. I think he's really talented, but Cam Scatterboo is just a bigger, bruising back. I think his touchdown, he's gonna have double-digit touchdowns. If they can get into the red zone, that guy's going to punch the ball into the end zone. But what's really surprising is he's a very good blocker, and I think he's a much better pass catcher than other people think. I think he's going to wind up being like their every down back, and then Tyrone Tracy is going to be their lightning or whatever in a bottle. But Cam Scatterboo, if they can move the ball, they've got quarterback issues there, as we all know. But if they can move the ball, Scatterboo is going to be a stud. People are going to love him. He might only have 700 yards, but he might have 10 touchdowns.
Well, I'll cut in here really quick, Kyle, because my number 9 is Cam Scatterboo. So, and pretty much for the same reasons you're saying, Jay. I think his touchdown numbers will be high. I think he's a grinder. He's a worker. And I think that if
Giants fans are going to love him. Yeah.
I was going to say, not that Tyrone Tracy wasn't, because Tracy on our fantasy show last year, he was my sleeper running back of the year. I got to pat myself on the back because I nailed that thing on the head. But I just think that there is a place for him. And I think inside the 20 with Cam Scatterboo, the way he just powers his way, drags tacklers with him, I think it's a perfect spot for him. And I'm kind of with you there, Jay. I think, 600-700 rushing yards with double-digit touchdowns is kind of what I see for Scatterboo too.
He's going to have 10 2-yard touchdown runs. That's
very, very possible.
Yeah, so there you got it, guys. That's Sean's number 9, Cam Scatterboo. You guys, my number 9 is going to surprise you a little bit. And this one, of all the stuff that we're saying is too early fantasy projections, This
Uh-oh.
one, mark my words, guys. This guy is going to finish as a top 10
Is it
rookie.
Manungai?
No, a top 10 rookie fantasy quarter or a running back, and I think it's gonna turn to fruition pretty quickly there. My number 9, guys, is Ollie Gordon in Miami, and let me explain why. Miami is in love with Devin Achane, which they should be. But even when Devin Achane was there last year, Mostert was playing a huge role. I think Mostert finished the season prior with Devin Achane there with like some 18 touchdowns. I think he led the league with touchdowns. I'm not mistaken. He is 100%. Ollie Gordon is going to be their David Montgomery to Achane's Jahmyr Gibbs. This is going to be a 50-50 back. Ollie Gordon's going to be in there and get you those tough yards, and he's going to get you a lot of touchdowns inside the 10 or 5-yard line. Obviously, they're expecting Achane to get those home runs, those 20, 30, 40-yard touchdowns. Ollie Gordon's going to be used a lot more than I think people think he's going to be used. I think they want that more of a balanced attack on offense in Miami when it comes to the running game. And I think Ollie Gordon's going to end up scoring double-digit touchdowns in his rookie season for the Miami Dolphins.
There you go. He's their Cam Scatterboo.
I would draft Ollie Gordon as high as
he's your number
7
9,
or 8.
right?
Yep, my number 9.
My number 9 and 10, you guys have already talked about. They're both Cleveland running backs. It's Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. I think both of those guys are super talented. But again, if they're both taking a 50% share or maybe less because of the rest of the other 12 running backs that they have, I don't know what kind of production you're going to get. But I do believe that one of those guys is going to come across as a clear leader. And it's just really, where do you draft those guys? I would hold off a little bit because I don't know if the first half of the season, I don't know if you're going to get a whole lot of production out of those two guys. Second half might be a different story.
And you know what, Jay? My 10 is Dylan Sampson. I was actually a little upset that the Chicago Bears punted on taking him. He was there for the picking, and I mean, I love his tape coming out of Tennessee. I love running backs out of the SEC, plain and simple. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. And his tape is explosive, man. And you talk about a power runner in between the tackles. Go watch his tape. He gets through the tackles and then he's gone. So you know what? Maybe he didn't fit Ben Johnson's scheme. We're going to see what he can do in Cleveland, but he is my number 10. And Kyle, before I turn it over to you, I just wanted to touch because we had a guy, I just left it up here. Brandon said sleeper Woody Marks. I have Woody Marks. He is the backup. He's going to be the backup to Joe Mixon and the Houston Texans. And my other honorable mention is, of course, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, Devin Neal. I wish he would have went to a better situation.
Whoa. Let me get my 10 in before we do honorable mentions.
Well, we got to move on to running backs here. We're going on 2 hours. Our wide receiver.
Yeah, my number 10 is Cam Scatterboo, guys. And real quick, I forgot to say, I'm not going to get in Cam Scatterboo. It's for basically the same reasons you guys just said. He's the guy who's there to beat up the defensive line. He's going to have a 50-50 split. But the guy, another reason I have Ollie Gordon ranked so high, guys, is you talk about drafting players who are playing behind players who get injured. Devon Achane gets injured like it's going out of style, guys. I think Ollie Gordon is probably going to end up starting for them at some point. And I know this, Howie, you say Miami has Jalen Wright too. Yeah, but Jalen Wright's skill set to me is very similar to a guy like Devon Achane. He seems like a guy who's basically drafted there for speed. Ollie Gordon is going to be their power back. He's going to be the guy that gets those nitty-gritty, tough yards. I think Ollie Gordon is going to have a phenomenal season on the Miami Dolphins. I like Ollie Gordon a lot. And that is, once again, a very high, potent offense that can score a lot of points. And I expect Ollie Gordon to be a huge part of that. All right, Sean, you wanted to get really my honorable mentions were Devin Neal and Brashard Smith, guys.
I just wanted to say to Dustin here with Judkins, I said this could change. I know you're at work, so you might have missed it. This could change as the muck of messiness that is the Cleveland Browns, as that picture becomes a little clearer. He could jump up my board. I just, there's a lot of question marks there. That's why I don't, with my top 4 that I have on my list, I don't think there's a lot of question marks. They're getting the rock, and they're, with the exception of Genty.
Could say top 5. Jaden Blue could be in that conversation.
Yeah, they're good. So
yeah, they're going to get the ball.
You know what, Jaden Blue,
and they're on good offenses that score points. That's what you want. You want players on offenses that score points. The more touchdowns, the better.
I think I had 5 or 6. I think I had Jaden Blue at 5. I'm trying to look. It's coming across.
Yeah, I said top 5. You had Jaden Blue at 5. That's what I'm saying. I think the top 5 don't have many question marks. I think he's going to get a huge. He's going to get a lot of playing time. Jaden Blue. I don't think there's much question marks there. Well, Sean, since you wanted to get in wide receivers, you start us off, man. I won't go first.
Oh, you're going to forget my sleeper? My sleeper is Jordan James, by the way. I think
honorable mention.
He's going to get some playing time.
Yeah, I thought you gave an honorable mention, didn't you, Jay?
No.
No.
Well, it said
Oh.
Bayshore was my 11, but he wasn't my honorable mention.
Yeah, I like Brashard Smith out of Kansas City. I think he sort of ends up playing a big role for them as well. He's my honorable mention. But Sean, let's go to receivers
Go.
here. What do you got?
Wide
Who do you got?
receivers.
Do we all think Travis Hunter number 1? Can we skip to number 2?
No,
I do not. I think
I do not think Travis Hunter's number 1.
yes.
Okay. I
So
have
Sean-
Travis Hunter number 1, but
I will look. Travis Hunter's probably going to be a stud, but I mean, is
Here.
he going to play both
I
sides?
don't know what
Is he
he's
gonna
going
do?
to play.
Right.
If he's, but having Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side only opens him up a little bit more. He can move around the offense, and I think he's going to play that Christian Kirk role. And a healthy Christian Kirk would have put up 1,200, 1,300 yards in the offense. If you remember when he got hurt last year, he got hurt with like 6 weeks to go, and I think he was at 700 receiving yards with half the season still to go. If Travis Hunter falls into that role and is very comfortable with T-Law, I think it could be a big season for him. And Kyle, before we move on, I almost picked my number 2 as my number 1. I don't know why I didn't.
Don't say
I'm
it.
not going to say
Jason,
it.
who do you got? Who's number 1?
You guys are going to probably disagree with me, but I think Emeka Egbuka is probably going to wind up as the number 1 wide receiver this year. I think he was the best slot receiver. He was like the guy
He's going to be buried on a really good depth chart, guys. You got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and who's the guy who came in last year? Who was an absolute beast?
Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, Jalen McMillan. That's tough.
I'm going to tell you this.
I think he's better than half of those guys. And again, I think
he may be, but you can
just a
ease
really
him
good
in
wide
because you
receiver.
got those guys. You can ease him in because you got those guys.
Right.
You don't have to rush him into the offense.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
Emeka Egbuka was almost my number 1.
Yeah, he's just the best pure route runner in the draft this year.
I agree.
Kyle,
I agree.
Kyle,
He's
I
good,
said this
Jason.
to you-
He's good,
I
and he
said
will
this to you
he
at
will
the
be
bar.
one of their best players. I just don't think it's going to be immediately. That's the problem.
I said this to you last night, Kyle. What did I tell you? Fade Chris Godwin, add Emeka Egbuka. That's all I got to say about
Well,
that.
let me ask you guys this, just real quick. How many yards do you think Emeka Egbuka finishes with the season behind Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and McMillan? How many yards? Do you think?
Chris Godwin could be coming back very slow off a very serious injury.
So give me your
So
yardage
I think
total. Just
Emeka
give me
Egbuka has a fantastic. And if you want to compare Emeka Egbuka to Jalen McMillan, see you, Jalen McMillan. I don't even think that's close.
I'm just saying though,
And I
but like
Jalen
if you got him
McMillan.
as your number 1 fantasy wide receiver as a rookie, so you're guessing what 1,100 yards? I mean, because
I would say about 11.
that's where the number 1 receiver usually finished. That's Brian Thomas.
You got it.
He's going to probably have 1,100 yards too.
And it's tied up. And the Pirates now have the lead off that error. Thank you, Caleb Thebar, you asshole. This guy, why in tough situations does this council keep bringing the son of a bitch into games? For the love of Christ.
Stay tuned Saturday
Sorry.
for the Northside 9.
Sorry. Jesus Christ, man.
All right. Well,
It's the 7th inning. You have a 1-run lead. You have a chance for Merriweather to freaking Hodge to Presley, and you throw in Caleb Thielbar for the God damn it. Sorry, I had to have a freak out moment there. I'm sorry. I'm so over this crap, dude. Every time this guy comes in, he's a piece of shit.
Sean's a fringe Cubs fan. He's not really into it. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but one day we'll get him to be a full-fledged fan.
my number 1 receiver in the 2025 rookie fantasy draft is going to be Trey Harris, guys. I think Trey Harris is going to finish with the most yards and touchdowns of any rookie receiver in fantasy this season. I love the situation in the Chargers. Like Sean said when he was talking about Egbuka or these other guys who have, it's not like he's the only weapon there. People still have to pay attention to other weapons on the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Trey Harris fell into one of the best coaching situations in the NFL with Jim Harbaugh there. I think early on you're going to see Trey Harris get 3, 4, or 5 targets a game. By the end of the season, I expect to see 8, 9. I think he's going to have a huge season in Los Angeles. I also love the skill set of Trey Harris. I think Trey Harris may end up being the best receiver in this draft. I think he could very well be a guy like A.J. Brown. And I think he's going to be great for the Chargers for a very, very long time to come. And you have to worry about Ladd McConkey as well. So he's going to be open.
It was a good ad for the team, and I think he's going to be good. He could be number 1. Any of these guys could be. I think Ladd McConkey was like just a freak of nature. I don't even know if they knew they had a Ladd McConkey until they found out, like, oh, dude, this Ladd McConkey is like really good. I think that's probably what they're hoping for in Trey Harris, seeing where they drafted him. I had him outside my top 10, but he could very possibly be another stud wide receiver.
Sean, is he outside your top 10?
Trey Harris?
Yeah.
No, Trey Harris is my number 3.
All right. So Sean, who's your number 2? You said it's Emeka Egbuka.
My number 2 is Emeka Egbuka. My number 3 is Trey Harris.
Jason, who's your number 2?
I'll be honest. Between these 3 guys, I had a hard time picking 1, 2, and 3 because I love Trey Harris as much as you, Kyle. I think this dude is AJ Brown. I really, really do.
Yeah, so
Same
do I.
university.
And he's going to be he's got one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best passing quarterbacks in the NFL. That's a great situation for Trey Harris to fall into. I think he's going to finish as the number 1 rookie fantasy wide receiver. Jason, who's your number 2 before we get to these threes?
Hold on really quick.
It pains me to say this. Sorry, go ahead.
Hold on, Jay. You know why Higgins isn't on my list? Because you talk about a tall list of people to climb. I think in Houston, there's a lot of receivers there. I do have Jaden Higgins on my list. He's just down a little more. But to be in my top 3 over
Dustin said Dustin, give us some time. He said House Higgins not on anyone's list. He's not number 1 on any of our list, but he's probably going to fall on everybody's list. So Jason, who's your number 2?
I had a hard time with this one, but the more and more I was looking at wide receivers and looking at the room that he's walking into, I think the guy that has the most potential, if his quarterback could stop throwing interceptions,
yep, I think we're the
Matthew
same.
Golden.
Yeah, we got the same number 2.
Yeah, I really didn't want to put him number 2. Obviously, he's the Packer, but they don't.
There's not much competition. Yeah, I mean, Jaden Reed and all those guys, Doubs, Reed, and Christian Watson have dealt with injuries. Every single one of those guys is an injury-prone type player. I mean, I think Matthew Golden's going to be their number 1 receiver, and it's going to be pretty damn quick. I think it's going to be pretty damn quick.
Again, he's going to get he's going to get the lion's share of targets because he's just better than everybody else that's in the room. He's on a team and an offense that likes to pass the ball. There's a reason why he was the number 1 wide receiver taken off the board, right? Well, besides Travis Hunter, but yeah.
Well, Ted McMillan too, but yeah, number 3.
Was there one for him?
Yeah, he was the number 8 pick overall by the Panthers.
Oh shit, that's right. Yeah.
All right, I agree with you, Jason. I don't want to get into Matthew Golden. He is my number 2 for sure. I think just based off opportunity, Matthew Golden's going to have a phenomenal season with the Packers. I hate to say that. You guys know it pains me to say that. Sean, who's your number? Your number 3 was.
My number 3 was Trey Harris.
So Jason, who's your number 3, man?
My number 3 is Ted McMillan. I think that offense got better, and I think he's a big wide receiver. I think he's a very good wide receiver. I'm not huge on him, but again, I think that offense is coming around, and I think he's going to get more touchdowns than people think. I also think he's going to get more yardage than people think. Because what's his nuts? Their slot, the old guy. I think he's out of there now, right? He's retiring. Who am I thinking of?
Oh, Adam Thielen. I think he's still there, man. I think Adam Thielen's still there. Remember, they drafted what's his name last year that Sean loved.
Now that we've blown the lead, now he brings in Porter Hodge. Oh my God.
Yeah, Xavier.
I think Ted McMillan's got the size and speed to do well there. As long as their offense still keeps progressing, I think he's going to have a very good year.
Yeah, my number 3 is Travis Hunter. You know, he got drafted by the Jaguars. He's in a pass happy offense. I do expect at some point Trevor Lawrence to take a little bit of a step forward. I'm not saying he's going to be a prodigy or I don't think he's going to be like generational like people think. I think that ship has sailed. But I do think at some point if they put him in the right situation with an actual good coach, I think that he's probably going to end up getting better. And I think Travis Hunter is going to have a good season for them. I have him as my number 3 fantasy receiver, and I would draft him as early as round 4. Sean?
And Dustin, just so you know, I do have Jaden Higgins higher than Matthew Golden on my list. I think Higgins is going to have a fantastic season. I am not as big on Golden as my 2 counterparts here. And yes, Howie, Royals is definitely on my list. We just haven't got to him yet.
So Sean, take it over. Who you got number 4, Sean?
Number 4. Just call me a homer, but I'm going with Luther Burden III. I think he's going to be able to carve him. I think he's going to be able to carve himself out a nice role. It's not all about being downfield with him. Bubble screens, end arounds. This guy can do everything on the field. He's a bona fide weapon. You're going to have DJ Moore on the field. You're going to have Roma Dunze on the field. But I'm telling you guys, I believe in Luther Burden. I'm going to throw up in my mouth because I've never believed in anything from Missouri, the University of Missouri, in my life. I really hope to God that I'm not wrong here, but when you just watch his tape, this guy just flashes everywhere. Attitude is my biggest concern, especially saying that they came out and said he doesn't play the same when the ball's not in his hand, and then it is when it is in his hand. But in this offense, especially as we get later into the season, I think there's going to be a lot of design plays for this kid, and he is an explosive playmaker. So I have him as my number 4.
Jason?
I have him farther down. I like Luther Burden. My question is, there's just a lot of weapons on the Bears now. And I only see him maybe getting like 3 or 4 targets to start the season, maybe, because everybody else
need targets, Dustin. Just listen to what I said.
We're on number 4, correct? My
Yep.
number 4 is Travis Hunter. Look, I probably would have put him higher, but I just don't know. Is him playing cornerback and wide receiver going to affect him in either one of those positions? I personally think, being in Jacksonville, I think it would be better if he played cornerback and then you brought him in as a wide receiver on certain packages. But it sounds like they're going to probably make him a wide receiver, and then I guess not play defense. I don't really know, but that's why he fell to number 4 for me. But Travis Hunter,
they didn't trade up. They didn't trade up to number 2 to make him one-dimensional. He's going to play both. I just think he's going to play more receiver than corner. But he's
also super smart. He was an All-American academic as well. He's not like he's a smart, good football player.
My number 4, guys, is Dustin Jaden Higgins out of Houston. I think with Tank Dell basically being lost for the season, I understand that the Houston is probably going to use Jalen Noel in that Tank Dell role. But I just think that early and often Nico Collins is going to get double covered, which he should. He's an absolute monster. Anybody who hasn't figured that out yet, you need to start watching the Houston Texans. And I think Jaden Higgins is going to have a lot of opportunity and be open a lot. And I think that's why he ends up at 4 on my list. I would draft him as early as round 5 in fantasy, guys. Sean, who's your number 5, man?
My number 5 is, who do I have on my list here? It's Ted McMillan. Opportunity. He showed some signs. I'm just not a believer.
Yeah, just say it, Sean. Bryce Young sucks. Go ahead, say it.
That's why I was saying.
Don't worry about it, bro.
Progressing, he'll be good. If they don't, he's not a good pick. Yeah.
Though he does have potential because Thielen put up some good numbers there, so there is some potential for him to do some good things. I just don't believe in the Carolina Panthers offense with Bryce Young under center, so I dropped him down my list just a little bit. But that's all. I think Ted McMillan is a talented individual. I don't like his where he got drafted. So if
Jason,
he got drafted to Kansas City or something, we're having a completely different conversation.
I had Jaden Higgins. For me, we're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of where some of these wide receivers, they have very similar skill sets, or they're in crowded rooms and you just don't know how it's going to pan out for them. I think Jaden Higgins has a huge upside, like a giant ceiling. It's kind of crazy, dude, but he might wind up being the best wide receiver on Houston this year. It's so crowded. Like Sean was saying earlier.
That's a tall ask.
It is, but he has that type of ceiling. I just think with everybody else, Jalen Noel, he's probably not going to get the target share to that's going to allow it to happen, because I think he's a player that needs reps to shine.
That's fair, man. I have no problem with that assessment. My number 5, guys, and this one's going to surprise the hell out of all you guys. Dustin's probably going to make some rude, disrespectful comment about this, but I got Kyle Williams at number 5, guys. I do believe in Drake May. I absolutely love Drake May. I think Kyle Williams is going to be. I think he's going to be very good for the New England Patriots. I don't think there's much competition in New England for Kyle Williams. I'm not enamored by any of the other receivers on that roster. I have nothing against Polk, nothing against Sean. What's the little guy's name who he's like kind of their slot receiver. Regardless, none of those guys really jump off the page of me. I think Kyle Williams is the most talented receiver in New England as it stands now today, and I love the coaching situation. I love the coaches they hired there. I think that team's actually going to be much more competitive than people think, and I think
they had a really good offseason in New England.
Yeah,
really
I think
good.
Kyle. Yeah, I mean, starting with the coach, and I think Kyle Williams found himself in a really good situation. Sean, who's your number 6?
My number 6 is none other than the guy that I think has been missing from the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is Jalen Royals. This kid's skilled, instinctive. He does lack explosiveness, but he makes up for it just knowing where to be. And when I say he lacks explosiveness, he's still explosive when he gets the ball in his hand. He's really decent, good body control and feel for the game. I really think this kid's going to excel in the Kansas City offense with Andy Reid. I really, really like Jalen Rose. This was a guy, if you guys remember, I was like, I like the Bears to grab him for the slot for the slot. He's a little bit bigger than a slot, but I really like Jalen Royals. This guy's going to be probably high on my draft board. I know Rashee Rice is coming back, but you got to remember he's going to be suspended for a quarter of the season as well. You have an aging Travis Kelce. This guy fell into a perfect situation where he doesn't have a lot of competition. I mean, you've watched Kansas City mix and match receivers over the past couple of years. I think that Andy Reid identified this guy, likes him for his scheme fit, and I think he's going to be a big part of Kansas City's offense this year.
Yeah, I have him in my top 10, just a little bit farther down. Well, we are on number 5, is it, or 6?
6.
6.
I got Luther Burden here. And again, Sean, you touched on it. I was saying earlier, it is pretty crowded, which I love him. I'm a Bears fan. I wanted to put him like number 1 or 2. Some of these analysts actually had him as the number 2 wide receiver in the draft. I think it was a great value pick. I don't think he's big as he can be this year. I think in maybe year 2 and 3, that's when we really see this kid shine. But he definitely has the ability. And look, our assistant head coach fought to get him. I think that's another big reason why we drafted him in the second round, because he's well liked. And I think he might wind up being another little stolen gem by Ryan Poles.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about Luther Burden later. I just don't like any of the receivers who are drafted into really, really crowded situations. I like the receivers like Kyle Williams, where there's just really nobody else to throw the ball to, right? Like this guy's going to get targets whether he likes it or not. So my number 6 is for the same exact reason I just mentioned. Jack Beck, for me, for the Las Vegas Raiders, number 6. I do think Geno Smith is a capable passer, although he may not be great, legendary Hall of Fame. I think he can get the ball downfield. I think Jack Beck was an amazing draft pick for the Raiders. He's playing opposite what's his name from the New England, they signed from the New England Patriots. Why am I drawing a blank on the other New England receiver, Sean?
Well, they have Javon Baker and they have
Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers takes enough attention on that side of the field that I think Jack Beck will find himself open at times. I think Jack Beck's going to get a lot of opportunities in Vegas, and I think he's going to be probably close to that 1,000-yard.
I was thinking of New England. I'm sorry, Kyle.
No, their other wide receiver is their tight end. That's all.
Yeah, Brock Bowers. But now you got multiple options. So right. Jack Beck's going to find himself open quite a bit. I think he's going to reach that 1,000-yard mark. I really do. Sean,
you guys know how I feel about Jack Beck.
Yeah, who's your number 7, Sean?
My number 7 is Kyle Williams. I know Demario Douglas and Javon Baker, who I was just talking about. Jalen Polk is there as well. Some of these young kids, but Kyle kind of touched on it. This kid excels at vertical routes. Separation comes really easy for him. He's outstanding at tracking a deep ball. I've been saying this since he was drafted. I believe Drake May is Josh Allen light. And he runs the ball, big body quarterback with a strong arm. He's got a lot of the same attributes as Josh Allen. If he grows into what Josh Allen is, only time will tell. But, Kyle Williams, he's got great body positioning. He knows how to torque his body around to make tough catches in tight situations. I like everything about Kyle Williams. I really wanted this guy, another receiver. I really wanted on the Chicago Bears, and obviously we can't have everybody. I wish we could, but this would another guy I would have really liked to see in the orange and navy on the lakefront as well. But he's my number 7, and I'm with you, Kyle. I think he's going to get a lot of attention. I think he's going to be very, very big in that New England offense this year.
To help Drake May a ton. Jason, who's your number 7?
I had Jack Beck there as well.
I had a feeling
a little after you, but I don't know if he's going to be the big deep ball threat that they want or need there, but I think he's going to be catching every other ball on the field that Brock Bowers isn't catching. I think Las Vegas is going to love him. We know he's got a great story, right? I mean, he's like the guy's going to play for you. So I think the team's going to love him too. But I think he's going to be a big security blanket, and I think that offense looks a little bit better with Beck on it, or Besh, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, I'm going to do my number 7 real quick, guys, just to get out of the way. It's Tet McMillan, and I had to force myself to put Tet in the top 10. I think Tet McMillan had the biggest draft or bust potential of any of these receivers drafted this year. I don't think any of these receivers really stood out head and shoulders above the rest. I think Tet McMillan's in a terrible situation there in Carolina. The only reason he's stuck into my top 10 is because I do like their coach, but I am not a fan of Bryce Young at all. You all know that. And I wasn't really a big fan of Tet McMillan going in the top 15 of the draft to begin with. It got even worse when he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers, who I now believe have supplanted the Bears as the most pathetic organization in the NFL. I think that the owner there is absolutely a joke. I just don't like anything about that team, but I'm going to put Tet McMillan there just because there's really not much else to throw the ball to. I like Xavier Legette, but I think he was a little disappointing last year. So hopefully they have finally found themselves a number 1 receiver. Sean, who's your number 8?
My number 8, we're going to go back. It's Jaden Higgins. I do agree with Dustin. He's going to be opposite Nico Collins. Good quarterback, good offense. We'll see if that offensive line can hold up. Jaden Higgins, another guy, was one of my top receivers coming into this draft. He fell into a really good situation in Houston. And like I said, he will be opposite Nico Collins, is an absolute stud, former Michigan wide receiver. So I have him there. I don't – big body, knows how to stretch the field, soft hands, good, tracks the ball well. I love Jaden Higgins a lot. I actually really like this receiver class as a whole. And ranking these guys was very difficult. And, we're catching shit from some people saying, oh, this guy's 8, this guy's 9, this guy's 10. I had a really hard time ranking these guys, and I redid my rankings like 6 times before we came on the show.
Now, once again, guys, these projections are not based off of who we think the best receiver in the draft is. This is based off of the situation that they were put in. Like, I would have Igbuka at the top of my list if he was drafted by, say, the Patriots, and there's nobody else to throw the ball to. But he went to a team with 3 really good, proven receivers, one of which is probably a Hall of Famer, and the other one could probably get Hall of Fame consideration if he keeps doing what he's doing for a few more years.
And I'll say this, Kyle, really quick about Ibuka. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin get hurt an awful lot. If either of those 2 guys miss time,
that's how what's his name got in last time, right? That's true.
But by the time they get back, you're not going to be able to keep Ibuka off the field.
That's
all I'm saying.
I like Igbuka. He's if he would have landed on the Bears, I would have been ecstatic. Jason, who's your number 8?
My number 8 is Kyle Williams. Kyle, you've actually talked about him quite a bit. He was the only Bear 2-time top 30 visit. We thought he was definitely going to be who we were going to take, maybe in those later rounds. I think, man, you're right. I mean, Drake May got a nice little receiver here, dude. I think he's going to be a reception machine. He's definitely somebody you should think about in your fantasy football draft later in the rounds because, dude, he could get you 80 receptions this year. I don't think with any problems. I mean, he's going to be a reception machine.
I would draft him in round 6. I would draft him in round 6. I would draft him in round 6 once all those stud receivers are gone. My number 8, guys, this one's going to surprise you guys for sure. Jalen Noel. I think Jalen Noel immediately slots into that role that Tank Dell was playing there. We saw the rookie season that Tank Dell had in that slot. They love to pass the ball there in Texas. They have a very tough offense to guard.
Do you think he has the role over Jaden Higgins?
Well, what I would do, Sean, I was just about to say this. If I'm drafting one of those guys, I'm going to see if I can draft both of them, because I think one of them is going to become the clear-cut number 2 in that offense. Now, I like Jaden Higgins better, but Sean, how many times have we talked about today's NFL? The ball seems to find its way into the middle of the field more often than anything. I think Higgins is going to play that role. Noel is going to play that role. I think he's going to be their Tank Dell, and Higgins is going to be stuck on the outside. That's not to say Higgins is going to have a bad season or anything like that, but it seems to me, Sean, look at the season that Tank Dell had as a rookie. Nobody was expecting that. I mean, that guy got the ball a ton, and he's really good at getting the ball downfield. Noel has that ability as well. One of these guys is probably going to end up falling out of the top 10, but because I don't know which one it is, I put them both in there. So I'm going to be wrong about somebody, but I think I'm also going to be right about somebody. Sean, who's your number 9?
My number 9 was the guy I told you guys pre-draft was going to exceed his expectations. He went a little bit higher in the draft than I thought. You guys have already touched on him, so you already know who that is, Kyle. Can you guess it?
Matthew Golden?
No, it's Jack Beck.
Do you have Matthew Golden in your top 10?
I do. I do.
So he's obviously number 10.
I'll explain why I have Matthew Golden where I have Matthew Golden. But
No, that's fine. Go over Jack Beck.
This was a guy I love Jack Beck. I think he can do everything on a football field. Again, he can take it deep. He knows how to find the soft spot in the zone. I think he's going to be Geno Smith's best friend. Again, ranking this, I did not want to put Jack Beck at 9. I wanted to put him up higher, but then I start looking at it and saying, oh man, can it be better than Kyle Williams? Can it be better than Jaden? I mean, this wide receiver class to me is it's not the Justin Jefferson draft class, but it's, I think, a really good draft class. It's going to contribute in the NFL.
There's some good slot receivers in this draft.
Yeah, and Jack Beck, to me, I think he may surprise some people and actually be higher up on this rookie list at the end of the year.
Hey, I had him high, man. I got him high.
I know you guys did. I
expect a lot of Jack Beck.
For me, he's going to be third in the pecking order behind Jacoby Myers and behind Brock Bowers. And then you're going to have to deal with the ball going into Genty's hands and getting the check downs. But I believe in his ability. I really, really do. So,
and the wide receiver room itself is not very crowded. Now, Sean, you're right. There's a lot of pass catchers there, but the wide receiver room itself is not very crowded. And usually there's at least 2 receivers that eat pretty well on these NFL teams. So for me, he's going to be that number 1 or number 2. I think he's going to end up being better than Jacoby Myers. But what about you, Jason? Who's your number 9?
My number 9 is Jalen Royals. I know it's Kansas City, but it always seems like they draft a rookie wide receiver and he does well. So honestly, the last 3 or 4 that they've drafted have been awesome. You're right. Ray Rice is going to be out. So I think that pairing of Xavier Worthy and him that first half of the season is probably going to be pretty fruitful for him. As long as he can hold on to the ball, he can catch it, and he figures out that offense, he's going to eat, and they're going to give him the ball. He's also, listen, Xavier Worthy is your deep threat. When Patrick Mahomes is running out of the pocket, he's either going to be looking for Kelsey or he's going to be looking for Jalen Royals. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm my number 9, guys. I'm not even going to go over it. I've pretty much explained to you guys why I have him here. Emeka Ibuka, I love the guy. I think he's going to be absolutely amazing in the NFL. I just think it's going to be when finally one of those guys leaves. I think Chris Godwin will get traded or Mike Evans will retire, something along those lines, and then he'll finally find his superstar role there. But early on in his career, I think he's going to be just more kind of a role player. And you know what? Isn't that what's the convenience of having such a stacked wide receiver room when you bring these guys in? You can bring them along at whatever pace you want. You don't have to rush it because you have other guys you can throw the ball to and not get your quarterback killed. So I think,
and by the way, have him understudy under Mike Evans, who's never had a less than 1,000-yard season in his career.
Yeah, and that's the same reason I don't have that Luther Burden super high on my list either. I think Luther Burden is more than capable of being a number 2 receiver in the NFL, a very good one for a long time, maybe even number 1. I just don't think right now with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, they have to rush it. Take your time, develop him as slowly as you possibly want, as you'd like. I expect Luther Burden to end up with somewhere around 700 yards, just like Rome Odunze did. Mm-hmm. Who's your number 10, Sean?
It's Matthew Golden, unfortunately.
It's
for me,
it's stuck with these guys in this list.
Well, for me,
he's good though.
Yes,
I hate to say this, but I think one of my honorable mentions, Savion Williams, could end up actually being better than Matthew Golden.
Sean, I think they're both going to be their number 1 and 2 receivers. I think they are the new Packers offense. That's it for sure.
The thing for me with Matthew Golden is he's a 1-year starter. He did average 17 yards a catch last year. He never had 1,000-yard season in college. He was a part-time player his first 2 years. He does have problems with his route tree. He's not the most efficient route runner. And I'm almost positive one of his weaknesses was his inconsistency in his work away from the ball. And for me, when I'm drafting my new number 1, who was a guy that was a part-time player in college, that should give everybody a little bit of concern. I'm not doubting his skill, his explosiveness, and his ability to make splash plays. I'm doubting his ability to be a true number 1 for the Green Bay Packers for 17 weeks. And you also have Romeo Doubs. You also have I mean, obviously they didn't like Dontavion Wicks as much as we thought going into the season last year. But when I look at all the things that Savion Williams can do, and again, Savion Williams, another part-time player, another guy who didn't have 1,000 yards in college, but the intangibles of what Savion Williams can do on a football field are a lot more to me than what Matthew Golden can do on a football field. Matthew Golden, again, quick out of his breaks, inconsistent away from the ball, kind of the same marks that Luther Burden had, inconsistency or away from the ball. You know, I don't think an attitude's going to be an issue with Matthew Golden, but he's going to have opportunity. He's going to have opportunity. The other thing for me is, you know, Green Bay run first. They have Jordan Love. Jordan Love, I think, is an overrated quarterback. You know, maybe this is a guy the Packers use a lot of bubble screens, end arounds, just get the ball in Golden's hands and see what he can do. But at the same time, as I say that, that's what I see Savion Williams doing for them. So we'll see when it comes to these Packers wide receivers. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust, but I do like other receivers. And I didn't like either Texas receiver pre-draft. And I think I said that when we did our wide receiver show. I wasn't big on Golden and I wasn't big on Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond isn't even on a professional football team, maybe because he's into bondage. But nonetheless, we'll see. We'll see. I could be wrong about this. God, I hope I'm right.
Jason, number 10.
My number 10 is a guy out of Denver, and I know it's a little bit crowded over there, but Pat Bryant would be my number 10. You know, I know he's got Cortland Sutton over there, and there's Marvin Mims Jr., but I think the kid's got talent, and I think he's going to wind up getting more target share than people think. I like Marvin Mims, but Marvin Mims is really inconsistent. You know, he'll have a good game, then he has like 2 bad games. I think Pat Bryant fills up that gap. And I think he takes some pressure off Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton might have a better year this year as well. But I think Pat Bryant in that offense, now that they've got running backs and they're going to be running pretty well, the second year for the rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, is going to be, you know, hopefully a bump up, right? Not a sophomore slump. But they got an offensive-minded coach that likes to, you know, move the ball around. So don't be surprised if Pat Bryant has a pretty darn good year.
Yeah, my honorable mentions before I get to my number 10, just because you guys have already said them. Jalen Royals, Luther Burden, and Savion Williams are all my honorable mentions. I think those guys are all better than the player I'm about to give here for number 10. I just don't think they're going to get the opportunity. You guys, well, I'm going to put my number 10, and this is another guy I think I can almost guarantee is going to have a lot more targets and receptions than most people think, because most people probably never even heard his name. But my number 10 fantasy for rookie wide receivers, guys, is a guy by the name of Torrey Horton, drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. We all know that the Seattle Seahawks no longer have DK Metcalf. They no longer have Tyler Lockett. For the most part, guys, they really don't have anybody. They brought Sam Darnold. They brought Sam Darnold there. I think you got to throw the ball. Yeah, it's got to be JSN and Torrey Horton. I think Torrey Horton's going to be the number 2 receiver. I think this guy could have finished with 800-900 yards and a handful of touchdowns, 5 or 6 touchdowns. I like Horton. You know, in 2023 he had 1,100 yard season with 8 touchdowns for Colorado, or for who did he play for in Colorado State? I think he's going to be a difference maker there immediately. And that's not because I think he's the best player coming out of college football. Who else are you throwing the ball to?
That's a good point.
Yeah, there's nobody there. Yeah.
There's nobody.
Sam Darnold's the quarterback there now?
Yeah, I mean, he's capable.
Yeah.
He's not.
If he has the same year or same kind of career in Minnesota as he does in Seattle, then it'll be fine. That's a great little pick.
Yeah.
I guess my honorable mention is one Mr. Xavier Restrepo, went undrafted, but wound up getting picked up by Tennessee, reuniting him with his college quarterback. I know it's really kind of crowded there, but don't be surprised, because that's kind of a messed up team right now. Don't be surprised if he climbs out of that gutter fast.
No, he almost made my list, Jason. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
He almost made my list. That is a match made in heaven. The only thing is Tennessee did draft. Who's that other receiver they drafted? I like that kid too.
Oh, shit. Hang on.
Sean, what was his name? The Titans drafted. I like that guy. I think he's going to be good for them as well.
Dyke, or
he's got a really strange. He's got a very strange name.
Chimere Dyke, or Chimera DK.
Well, the Cubs just lost the series to the Pittsburgh Pirates because I don't see them beating the Paul Skeens tomorrow. So good job bringing in Caleb Thielbar to blow the game for you there, Coach. For the love of everything holy.
Sean, who's your honorable mention? Oh, Eric Ayamanor. That's who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
Manura. I'm Manura.
And you know what? He was
I like
top.
him
He
in
was the top
Tennessee.
receiver in the draft. They were saying out of
Yeah,
Stanford.
that's the guy that worries me about. I was going to put Restrepo in there, but I'm like that. I'm Manura guy. He's gonna make an impact immediately too. There's actually becoming more mouths to feed in Tennessee. I can't believe I'm saying that, but the Titans are starting.
It's going to be rough there. You got a
Oh,
rookie quarterback.
Tyler Lockett's still going to have a role there. He's not going to be amazing, but he's going to have a role there. He's going to take some receptions as well. It's just going to be tough for any one of those guys to have like an 900,000 yard season with a bunch of touchdowns.
They're just happy Will Levis isn't throwing him the ball anymore.
Yeah, Sean, who's your honorable mention? Sorry, man.
I had a couple. I mean, I had Jalen Noel, I had Restrepo, Pat Bryant, and obviously Savion Williams. I really
Wow,
like.
so I'm the only one who's even thinking about the Seahawks receiver, huh?
I actually looked at him. I looked
Who
at
else do
him
you throw the ball
earlier.
to?
Kyle, no, I did look at him earlier, and I erased him off my list. I think he's still in my fantasy Google Docs notes. I took him off because I fucking hate Sam Darnold, and
So
I
do
don't
I.
think Sam
So do
Darnold is
I.
going to have the same success he had in Minnesota.
So do I. But either way, if he gets 5 catches a game from Sam Darnold, even if they're 40, 50 yards, you're talking about a guy who's constantly getting you almost basically double-digit fantasy points if you throw in touchdowns and average it out. That's pretty good for a rookie who's going to be drafted in fantasy in what, the 12th, 13th, 14th round?
Yeah,
I
for
would
sure.
put him on my bench.
You're
for
basically trying to peg him as the next Brian Johnson or whatever, Brian Robinson Jr., or Brian Thomas. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Not a chance in hell he ends up being Brian. No, not a chance. Brian Thomas? No. I said he's Brian Thomas was the first ranked rookie wide receiver out of that class when it comes to fantasy stats. He had the best
Correct.
season of any of them. I think this guy's going to be the 10th best receiver out of this draft class when it comes to fantasy stats. And guys, once again, solely based off of opportunity, because I don't like Sam Darnold either. And I don't know anything about Seattle's coaching staff, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about them. So I don't know how he's going to be used, but you have to throw the ball to somebody has to catch the ball.
Somebody's got to catch the ball.
Somebody's got to catch the ball. So I'm going to stick him into my top 10. It wouldn't surprise me. Anything else before it's been a pretty long show here, guys.
And we got a $114 that have been hanging out with us for a while. We got to thank
Right
our
on.
Twitter peeps because we've had 100 people on Twitter checking us out. We've kind of dimmed out the people on YouTube, but that's okay. They stuck around for most of the show. It's a little bit too early for fantasy for some people, but my fantasy switch is always on. So, anything else we want to get out? Don't forget before we do get out of here.
Tom said one more hour.
We want to thank everybody in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. What a great! This is close to our record, right, Sean?
Yeah.
It's pretty close. I think our record is 130. We got to 118 at one point, so we were creeping up there. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
We found a new Lions troll. I mean, how good was that? That was awesome.
Isn't it, how fun is it, guys? Just sit here and talk about Bears with Bears fans. I mean, how fun is it to talk about football with Chicago Bears fans? What an absolute joy. Thank you so much for being here every week in, week out, guys. You are 100% the reason we do this. We used to just talk to each other at the bar. Now we have a lot more opinions, a lot more questions, a lot more different vantage points. Yeah, it's definitely so much fun to talk to you guys every night.
Hey guys.
Right, Jason, Sean, you want to say anything else before we get out of here?
No, just thanks to everybody in the chat. Dustin, Howie was very active tonight.
Sean never gets it. He never gets it.
What? Oh,
isn't that what he says? Doesn't he say anything else you want before you get out of here? Before you get out of here?
Yeah. Sorry, it's late.
Anything you want to get out there before you wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right, yeah. Let's go. That a boy. Awesome.
You know, it's gonna be
now get some pressure on the quarterback.
Hey, thanks, T. A Lions fan here said we had a decent draft. You know what? You need to talk to the rest of your Lions friends, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome to the show anytime. Your buddy might be banned, but
yeah.
Until next week, guys. Don't forget Dustin and Brandon burn the midnight oil tomorrow at 11:30 on the bare minimum. Kyle and I will be back to break down what looks like is going to be a mess of a Chicago Cubs week on Saturday. Don't forget coming back to join the show. Our favorite Cubs reporter will be back on May 10th. Mr. Alex Pat will join the show.
He's always a
working
great
on some
show.
Bears guests. Yeah, we're working on some Bears guests.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you guys, Sean, earlier, real quick, when you brought up the fact that the Bears are going to be $3 million over the cap, and people were like, "Well, who do we have to trade? Who do we have to restructure?" You guys, We're going to have an NFL agent on here pretty soon, and he's going to explain something to you guys called cash over cap. And this is where
Have a
teams can
blessed night,
pay
T.
players cash, and it doesn't count against the salary cap. So we're going to have him in here to explain all that to you guys to see how the Bears can fix the salary cap situation.
Yep. And before we get out of here, Howie, if you're still here, what question did you have, bud? If you're still kicking, we'll give you 60 seconds. You're down to 40. No, I'm just kidding.
60 seconds. 2 seconds later. You got 5.
He says,
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, I don't think that's – I would love that, but I don't think it's very realistic.
Nobody's going to take all of our garbage.
I would take Joe Chipman and Breece Hall in a second.
Yes.
The only guy that would really would break my heart in that trade right there is Brisker. And I love Komet, but you have your quote tight end in the future. I don't know if you want to be paying
I'm with you.
backup tight end that much, but yeah, Brisker and Komet is a lot to ask for Breece Hall, Joe Chipman, if you're going to throw the rest of that stuff in there too.
Yeah. But I could get rid of everybody else. Brisker would break my heart. If that guy stays on the field, he has a really good chance. T, if you're to be a Pro Bowler, T, if you're asking me right now what I think the Bears record is going to be, I think we're going to. You hit it on the head. I'm going to say 8-9 right now. Potential to win a couple extra games. Fool me once.
Still probably won't be enough though.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me.
It's a tough division. It's a tough schedule, guys. It's nothing against the Bears, but I got it. I'm gonna have their over under at 9.5 to start the season. I would probably take.
I'm gonna leave it at 8. I'll probably change it as we get closer to September. I'll start drinking the Bears juice and have us winning 15 games. Go Bears! No, I'm just kidding. Hey guys, thanks to everyone. We got a $1.16 still checking us out, man. Thank you guys all so much. I want to
Great
say,
show, guys.
Yes, great show. Great participation from the audience. We love all of you guys in the chat, and thank you guys. We can't thank you enough. Until next week, don't forget Dustin and Brandon tomorrow at 11:30. But until then, and we see your wonderful faces, stay safe out there, be kind, and bear down.
I thought you were going to say be kind, rewind.